Hey listeners, how are you all? Thank you so much for being our awesome members. Join Patreon if you want lemons, link in the description. There's a lot to come more. Sit tight, be comfy. Put your headphones, now let's begin. Oh wow. A teenage girl wearing a businesswoman's suit with black boots under her dark pants remarked, while holding up a manila letter and envelope to her face. She sits down at her desk inside her office in the secret military base and stares intently at the letter written in Russian with her elbows leaning on the gray desk. She looks troubled, conflicted even. With her smooth chocolate eyes, she scans over the paper again. Reborn, you really do ask a lot from me, but you're just too much of a great guy to turn down. The girl smiles and tucks back her dark hair behind her ear. I just hope that your letter is enough to convince the general, she adds wistfully with a tinge of apprehension picking at her. She pacifies herself and looks over her office quickly. The girl then picks up her suitcase, fills it with clothes and necessities and grabs 2 briefcases and fills them with tools ranging from a simple metal hammer to colorful, moving, outlandish-looking ones from various drawers in her quirky half-office, half-lab. She grabs her bags and the letter, stands up and walks down a pure white hallway with little window revealing military testing, leading to a massive steel door with 2 guards in Russian military uniforms. Before reaching the door, the girl tucks the letter in the pocket of her overcoat and puts on a concentrated stare of authority. She arrives 2 feet from the metal vault-like door and stops abruptly. The 2 guards look towards her with no expression. Please let me through. I must talk. LK to General Itsov, the girl says in near-native fluent Russian. The guards look to her and nod, then run a number sequence on the number pad behind them. With a sudden hiss and the curious stares fro. Other workers in the base who never seen that door open before, the door folds up against the wall to the left. The girl walks into a bright and glowing doorway. Miss Walker, where are you going? A timid Russian voice called from the crowd of curious workers. The girl just turns around and with a nonchalant smile and says in Japanese, Namimori, Nippon Mochiran. The girl turns on her heel and walks right into blinding lights. Another hiss comes from the giant steel hinges, and the door slowly closes on the curious crowd of Russian military workers. Sawada residence, Namimori, Japan. In a casual, small-town kitchen, a baby, 2 young children and a woman with rosy hair sat at a modest table and ate breakfast. A normal, everyday picture. Though, the baby wearing a black suit and stylish fedora was actually an infamous hitman working for the almighty Vongola mafia family, his name being Reborn. The people seated around him in the casual house were the same. The rosy-haired woman has a way with cooking and has had said meals eat through steel prison bars, was also famous in the mafia world. Her name is Bianchi, aka the Poison Scorpion. 2 young children, one dressed in a cow costume and the other in a traditional Chinese dress, chased each other around the table making noise and commotion. The child in the cow costume, even as much as a baby as he acts like, is as well part of the Bovino mafia family as the other, although not nearly as useful, at least not at 5 years old. His name is Lambo. The last child, the one wearing a Chinese dress with a small braid on top of her head, named Ipin, is a friend of the Vongola family. Here's some more rice, called a soft voice from somewhere near the table. A woman with short brown hair and a kind smile comes out from the small kitchen and brings the odd group of mafia hitmen more rice for their breakfast. She smiles innocently at the notorious group. She is the only non-mafia member in this household. Her name is Nana Sawada, and the owner of the household. Nana served everyone more rice to the children with, "Thanks mama," returned. She smiled and took her seat at the table and starts to eat. Tsuna's going to be late again, Reborn commented as he gathered some rice with his chopsticks. But it's expected. Reborn finished before stuffing his small childish face with rice. Bianchi nodded in agreement and said, "But didn't you say that the prefect at the middle school is a fearsome guy?" Bianchi stared at Reborn intently. Reborn just smiled, an all too familiar smile of evil. Bianchi knew the chaos he could see. Reate and the vast variety of people Reborn knew, but that still didn't make Reborn's face any more readable. It looks like we'll have to wait and see what Reborn is going to do, Bianchi thought with finality. I'm going to be late. A small, spiky-headed, Offbeat-looking boy whined as he raced down from stairs to around the kitchen like an awkward schoolgirl, despite being a mafia boss in training. Shoes, 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 shoes. Tsuna, the boy, chanted desperately, his eyes racing. Nana stared at her son with a blank expression, before breaking out in a realizing smile. Oh, here's Su-kun. Yo, you left them by the table yesterday, she says, holding up the shoes. Tsuna's expression went thankful and hurried as he slapped his shoes on and running out the door with a quick, faded, "Thanks, Mom." The mother smiled back at her son, who ever since she hired Reborn to tutor him, has matured greatly. This is something that Nana felt was worth smiling for. Outside of the Sawada residence, a certain hot-headed bomber and a baseball idol stood waiting for their friend. Tsuna came running out of his house with a short breath. Sorry guys, Tsuna apologized, while looking anxiously down a street that he used to go to school. He was late, again. Tsuna knew it was only a matter of time before someone noticed, whether it be his teacher or Kyuya Habari. The name almost stops his heart in cold fear. It's okay Tsuna, we'll get in trouble together, Yamamoto stated with a comical, carefree smile, and patted Tsuna's back too hard for the fragile mafia boss as he winced at the rough gesture. Hey, watch it baseball freak, Gokudera shouted at the taller dark-haired teen. Yamamoto looked conflicted for a moment, and then broke into his trademark grin. Ah, sorry, you better be. If you hurt the 10th, I'll blow you up, Gokudera threatened, lighting up 8 dynamite sticks between his fingers menacing. No wait, don't blow anything up, Tsuna pleaded frantically, looking back between his two friends. Gokudera scoffed crossly and put out the dynamite sticks with a flick of his hands. You better be thankful the 10th is merciful. I am, Yamamoto, although not fully understanding, still answered honestly. Are you being sarcastic with me? 10th, please let me blow him up. He, with a couple of dynamite sticks thrown, laughter, and countless pleads, the three head off to school, this time very late. Tsuna was practically trembling, and Gokudera was glaring angrily at Yamamoto's smiling face. Habari-san, he'll definitely bite us to death today. Tsuna sobbed inside of his head, clutching his chest in fear that it'll burst from anxiety. It's his fault, Gokudera thought intensely while never breaking his angry gaze from Yamamoto. And Yamamoto couldn't stop thinking about tonight's baseball game, and imagined hitting a perfect home run. Why hasn't Reborn given me the dying will bullet so I can be on time today? Isn't he supposed to be helping me? Tsuna panicked inside of his head. Reborn has been smiling at the word school for a week now, and Tsuna is getting more paranoid every day. What if he planted bombs in the school? Or did he make Bianchi the school's home EC teacher? What if he's planning on making me go to an all-mafia school? Each theory came and crossed Tsuna's mind, each one more terrible than the last, adding on the paranoia. In fact, Tsuna didn't even see the tall, dark and ominous figure a foot away from him, just inside the school gates. Gokudera would have noticed too, if he weren't glaring at the ever-smiling Yamamoto, who unfortunately smiles with his eyes closed. Oof. Tsuna grunted slightly as he felt himself walk right into something hard. Did I just walk into a wall? Tsuna wondered. He felt a sudden surge of danger as he looked up to meet the vicious and cold gaze of the school's perfect Kyuya Habari. Tsuna let all of his week-long Reborn-made paranoia come out in one long blood-curdling scream. Inside the classrooms of Namimori, the children held a look of pure terror, and the name, Habari, was tossed around in the sudden gossip from the blood-chilling excitement. In just a street from Namimori Middle School, a dark-haired girl with chocolate-brown eyes wearing the Namimori girl's uniform looked up to the sound of screaming. She had an alarmed look on her face as she looked around with slightly widened eyes. Then the girl looked towards the school's direction and started running, wearing a regular school bag hanging from her shoulder and an ebony black suitcase in each of her hands. Habari raised an eyebrow at Tsuna, who was comically hyperventilating on the ground and clutching his chest with sweat around his face, giving off a post-terrified look right at Habari's feet. Yamamoto and Gokudera turned around abruptly to the sound of Tsuna's scream and put on a war face on. Their eyes widened at the sight of Habari standing over the body of Tsuna, who was in a fetal position. What did you do to the 10th? Gokudera asked menacingly. Yamamoto's face was free of smiles as he wore an intense battle glare. Silence fell over the school entrance like a cliché pre-fight scene. Nothing. But you three are late, Habari answered with no expression showing on his face whatsoever as he weaved threat into his tone. Habari, you really scared me. Tsuna finally announced in a shaky voice. Yamamoto and Gokudera relaxed and turned their attention towards sound of Tsuna's voice. Are you all right? Panted a winded, feminine voice with a noticeable accent. The group turned their attention onto the dark-haired girl behind Yamamoto and Gokudera, just out of the school gates. The girl was breathing slightly hard, but caught herself. Then the girl returned the stares she received. Habari stood silently as he noticed the girl's stance was like a fighter's, but more defensive, like she's been around. The way she carried herself was straightforward and calm, like a carnivore. But her face and expression was far from anything threatening, sympathetic, almost an herbivore. Habari found this strange, but just as interesting, though he'll never admit it. Who are you? Gokudera was the first to break the silence. The girl smiled and opened her mouth only to be interrupted. A small compartment opened up inside the wall in the school's gates near Tsuna's face, revealing no other than Reborn. How did you get right there? Tsuna asked, alarmed at the Reborn's sudden appearance. I told you, I have many secret hiding places in this school. I thought you might fall down here one day, so, Reborn answered boredly. You saw this coming. No, wait, you planned this. Tsuna yelled at the hitman. Habari glared at Tsuna for the sudden yelling. Tsuna shrank back. Reborn's face was the usual smiling poker face that made the hitman such a mystery. No good, Tsuna. Meet Agnella Walker. She'll be helping your sorry ass, Reborn said, using his small arm to gesture to the girl who stuck out her hand, hesitated, pulled her hand back, and then bowed. The word, foreigner, came to mind at the girl's awkwardness. It took Tsuna a moment to realize Reborn's insult. Stop calling me that, Reborn. And what good will it do bringing your student's self-esteem down anyway? I ran out of willing helpers and I need some more things constructed, so I called Agnella here. Reborn said, completely ignoring Tsuna. Habari raised an eyebrow at this and looked at the girl. He knew the baby was strong, so she had to be strong for the baby to rely on her, even though she still looked like an herbivore. Yamamoto came over to the girl and patted her back roughly. So you're a friend of the kid. Are you here to play mafia with us? Sure if you say so, the girl said easily, her lips turning in a lopsided smile that looked quite cute. Yamamoto smiled his trademark smile in return, the king of obliviousness. He still thinks it's a game, Tsuna thought, nearly face-palming himself. Then he realized something. She's here with Reborn. Don't make Walker-san part of the mafia. Tsuna pleaded desperately. Reborn flat out ignored him. Gokudera's eyes never left the girl, until his face light up with realization. I've heard of you, you're that kid prodigy architect. Gokudera said, smiling at Reborn. I thought she's European, or some kind of foreign. How did you get her here? He asked. European. She doesn't look like it. In fact, she looks sort of Japanese, mixed, Tsuna thought. She's 1/4 Italian and 1/4 Russian from her dad's side and half Japanese from her mother's side. Reborn said, answering Tsuna's unspoken question. Mind reader. He's defiantly one. Tsuna thought, panicking. Of course I'm not. No good, Tsuna. You're just predictable, Reborn said out loud. Everyone but Agnella and Habari looked confused. Agnella had a blank smile of confusion on her face and Habari had his usual cold gaze fixated on Reborn and Tsuna. Tsuna panicked at the venomous look he received from the school perfect, but Reborn cut him off. Because of her skills in building and creating new and or improved things, she is being targeted by the mafia and foreign military forces. And so she's in of need protection. I brought her here from her home in Russia to be part of your family and even had her be transferred to your school, Reborn said, now standing on said girl's shoulder. Tsuna's mouth dropped. Russia. The girl smiled widely. Oh well, when Reborn asked me to come, I just couldn't refuse. After all, he's helped me so much. Agnella said, smiling, beaming gratefully at Reborn. You actually helped someone? Tsuna asked in disbelief. Reborn just scoffed and jumped from Agnella's shoulder and casually kicked Tsuna in the face with grace. Hey, that rhymed. I wouldn't go on insulting people like me. No good, Tsuna, Tsuna fell on his back and Reborn flipped backwards and landed gracefully next to Gokudera's feet. 10th. Gokudera Cal. Led out then stood over his precious boss. Tsuna went down. Not before crying out, I thought tutors are supposed to help their students, not give them bruises. Herbivore. Habari commented coldly. Agnella looked confused, but delighted in a sense. Weirdo. Then, Tsuna realized something again. Reborn, where is she going to stay? Agnella gave an oblivious, huh. My house is way too crowded. There's no way I can get any more people to fit in there. Tsuna the all-caring said, looking nervously at the girl who currently has no place to stay. Reborn gave an all-knowing smirk. I know, she will stay with Habari. Silence fell over the group again. Agnella seemed composed with Habari's animalistic stare on her, and returned a calm stare back. Yamamoto gave a weak smile. Reborn, she could stay with me. Tsuna was too shocked to hear Yamamoto's offer. Gokudera's jaw dropped. He'll kill her. Tsuna's brain was shorting out as he looked frantically between Reborn, Habari and Agnella. Habari looked stone cold as always. Agnella seemed almost unaware of the danger Reborn the poker face just got her into. I don't remember allowing anyone staying at my house, infant. Habari remarked coldly, holding a steady gaze on Reborn who didn't seem to care. Don't worry, this will benefit you. I know you've been upset ever since the fight with Mukuro Rokudo, Reborn said. Habari's gaze turned steely and hateful at the memory of the pineapple-headed man. Poor Tsuna's heart nearly stopped in fright when he saw his expression. But you can practice with all of the mafia members. Especially Mukuro Rokudo and his gang that are out to get Enchan. You'll probably meet Mukuro again if you keep Agnella under your wing. I'm sure you can arrange that she can do her school work in the discipline committee's office. Just to make sure she's safe, Reborn offered with a slight threatening tone under his smooth voice. Habari was silently thoughtful for a moment, then gave a dark, menacing smirk. He hated crowding, but he wanted to bite Mukuro to death even more. All right, Habari, amazingly, agreed. Tsuna's eyes widened comically as he looked at Habari with shock. We're leaving, Herbivore, Habari said. Walking over to grab the back of Agnella's collar, then started to drag her down her towards the school in silence, but stopped a few feet from the group. Get to class, or I'll bite you to death. Habari added with ice-cold menace without turning around. Tsuna, Gokudera, and even Yamamoto looked shocked, minus Reborn. It's sort of impossible for him. Agnella blinked, but remained calm, surprisingly. Before the two were out of sight, Agnella called out, Bye Reborn, bye 10th Vongola and friends. Cheerfully, Habari then dragged her to behind the school and then the two were out of sight. Reborn stood triumphant and tall. For his size, to get Habari to do something he doesn't want to do, is a great accomplishment. Tsuna looked so pale like he was going to faint. Yeah, Mamoto grinned weakly and rubbed the back of his head and said, that's kind of a rough game. Gokudera was frozen staring at the spot he last saw. The two before turning slowly back to Reborn. What do you have against that poor girl? He asked quietly, wondering what was the point of killing off a stupid woman so soon. Nothing, Reborn replied bluntly. Tsuna looked even more shocked. Then why? Tsuna began, but Reborn cut him off, again. We need Agnella for her skills, she's the best in the world currently. And we need Habari to officially join the family. Reborn stated easily, like it's no big deal that a sweet and defenseless-looking girl is going to be within 5 feet of Habari on a daily basis. Besides this, Tsuna wondered what Reborn meant by, and we need Habari to officially join the family. Quote, Tsuna just gave a confused look and Reborn smirked at him. Tsuna, what would you say about Agnella-chan, your first impression? Reborn said suddenly. Tsuna was confused again, but answered, kind, maybe a caring person. Tsuna said uncertainly. Reborn nodded his head. Both of those are true, but there's more to her than that. Agnella Walker has lived most of her life on a Russian military base. Everyone looked surprised to see such a happy-looking, almost carefree girl would be raised in a military base of all places. So she has good, strong morals and values and is tough. She's also very smart in mathematics. Better than some college professors ever hope to be. She's not very good in Japanese reading and writing or other subjects at all, so you'll have to help her with that. No good Tsuna, Reborn finished. It took a second for Tsuna to absorb the information. I have to tutor her. I'm no good at school too. And you wonder why people call you no good Tsuna, Reborn smirked starkly. Before Tsuna could argue, Reborn continued, she should be a good influence on you, and help you with your stupid fear of everything. More importantly, with her follower nature and natural friendliness and skills. She will be a good asset to our family and she should be able to befriend Habari. Reborn finished, answering Tsuna's unspoken question again. Once again, everyone was in shock. Befriend Habari? Gokudera asked, with his eyes wide. Yamamoto was speechless but his comically placed grin never left. Tsuna nearly fainted right then and there. Reborn just smirked. Go to class. You're at least 5 minutes late. Don't want the discipline committee to catch you all here, mouths hanging open, Reborn said carelessly as a sudden snot bubble protruded from his nose. He's asleep, the group thought together, sweat dropping. No one let their eyes leave Reborn until now, and for Tsuna, Reborn's words just hit him. We're late. Gokudera's expression went to a grimace and Yamamoto just smiled. Normally, 5 minutes late is nothing, but when Habari is involved, being seconds late means getting your face damaged hard. Running, the three made it to their class, very, very late. Inside the discipline committee room, Habari was sitting at his desk filling out paperwork. When Agnella first walked in, she set her bag and suitcase on a random table with a lot of chairs around it. Agnella was now calmly looking around the room, glancing out the window every once in a while. Habari noticed that she hasn't complained once since they meet. To Habari's experience, herbivores always complain. Then Habari remembered that it's the baby's subordinate, and maybe that's why Walker isn't complaining, like a carnivore. What connection do you have with the baby? Habari suddenly asked. Agnella stared at the perfect for a moment, feeling caught off guard, but answered, he is a friend of mine, calmly with her accent firmly attached. Habari could tell. She was telling the truth and so he didn't press on. With the calming silence Agnella allowed, Habari found his eyes closed. Suddenly, a little yellow bird came through an open window in the room and landed on Habari's head. Habari seemed to be vaguely aware by its presence, despite its stark presence nestled in the Cloud Guardian's head that had inky black hair. Confused by its presence, Agnella walked up to the bird. She came up to Habari's side and looked at the yellow poof ball. She found the bird harmless enough so she reached her hand out, attentively, to touch it. But before her fingers could reach the animal, a strong grip held Agnella's digits just above Habari's head. Agnella looked down shyly, but not scared, at the skylark. Habari noticed this lack of fear in her, but dismissed it and let go of her hand. She let the limb drop to her side. What are you doing? He asked gruffly. Suddenly, Agnella's eyes widened comically with excitement and her lips broke out into her own lopsided smile. I wanted to pet your bird, she says cheerfully. Habari thought of threatening her with his tonfa for something, but Habari could not find that something, a reason to discipline her, despite her lack of fear. Agnella, the brave girl that she was, lifted her hand and formed a mini perch with her fingers and stared at High Bird encouragingly with her lopsided smile unwavering. Habari lifted an eyebrow at this. But High Bird flew from on top of the head of the discipline committee's head, to the girl's finger. The girl's eyes grew larger with excitement and a delighted gleam lingered in her eye. Before Habari's eyes, Agnella's lopsided grin widened to an almost smirk-looking smile. Habari again wanted to say something to bite her, but could not find a reason. She was being quiet, she wasn't making any trouble. She wasn't breaking any rules and for some reason, it didn't bother Habari that High Bird was on her finger. Perfectly peaceful. So when do I get school work? I haven't been to an actual school before, Agnella began while sitting down to the table that had her bag and suitcase on it with High Bird still on her finger. Habari grunted and got to his feet. Give me your schedule, Habari demanded. Agnella, who was more than used to taking orders while living on the Russian military base, complied with no protest. Habari took the paper and walked just outside into the hallway, his hand keeping the door from closing. Stay here, don't touch anything, he coldly stated and left. Agnella took the order in with no complaints. After all, at the military base, Itsov would have made her do push-ups if she dared complain. Agnella decided she didn't want to do push-ups here either. Sighing in the memory of Russia, Agnella took a whole apple pie from her bag, a fork and started to chow down. Om nom 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 nom. In the classroom of Tsuna, Yamamoto and Gokudera, things were not going well. Their teacher promised them all detention, a bad mark, and extra work for being late. Gokudera nearly bombed the entire room for the teacher's unfair punishment, if Tsuna didn't intervene. Yamamoto just chuckled and asked, "Is this still a game?" Tsuna's head was now down and heavy on his desk in emotional exhaustion. Yamamoto was still smiling and paying attention to the lesson, although not really understanding it. Gokudera sighed boredly at the math he learned while he was a child. What was this classroom full of? Idiots. Gokudera then caught glance of Yamamoto, who was balancing his pencil on his nose with a grin that belonged to a child. Gokudera found his answer. The teacher went on to a few more problems before the classroom door slid open. All the children who had hopes for a pleasant distraction from this boring lesson were shattered as the head perfect stepped into the room. Tsuna paled. Gokudera seethed, and the pencil fell off of Yamamoto's nose, and the baseball prodigy just smiled towards the perfect with no evidence of fear. The rest of the RO froze with fear from the perfect's dark, murderous aura they all unfortunately were familiar with. Habari-san. What brings you here? Are you bringing the new student? The history teacher tried to look unafraid, but failed. The students couldn't exactly blame him. I need a math book, your class work and homework for the week. Also, Agnella Walker is excused from going to class. She might attend when I'm busy. Habari stated, politely, with hints of threat under his tone. The homeroom teacher seemed confused slightly, but gave the perfect the paper anyway. Oi, what did you do to Walker-san? Gokudera asked the question everyone else was too afraid to ask. Well, Gokudera had to ask if the boss is concerned about her. Habari let his steely gaze land on Gokudera. Children seated near Gokudera, including Tsuna, had the sudden urge to run away, fast. Nothing. The head perfect replied and promptly walked out of the room. The heavy air lifted from the room and everybody felt like they could breathe easier. Tsuna looked worried, even though Habari said he didn't do anything to Agnella. And even with Reborn's confidence that Habari won't hurt Agnella, the brunette couldn't help but to worry. Agnella with Habari. It was like sending a sheep into a tiger's cage to Tsuna's boss in training mind. Yamamoto noticed Tsuna's gloom expression and smiled kindly at him. Don't worry, Tsuna. The kid wouldn't leave Walker-san with Habari-san if he was going to hurt her. Tsuna looked at his friend and smiled. Gokudera suddenly looked pissed because A. Yamamoto cheered up the 10th before he could. B. Tsuna was smiling back at the baseball idiot, and C. Gokudera is the 10th's right-hand man. Don't listen to that baseball idiot. I'm sure Walker-san is all right. Gokudera said reassuringly, even though he basically copied Yamamoto's exact words. Tsuna started to look uncomfortable as Gokudera started to rant on how much he admires the 10th, how hard he is going to work to be a better right-hand man, etc. Yamamoto wasn't sure what Gokudera was talking about, but decided to go with it. Hey, can I try out to be Tsuna's right-hand man? Oh, hell no. There's no way a bastard like you is going to be the 10th's right-hand man. 10th, do I have permission to blow up the baseball idiot? Tsuna smiled weakly and wondered how is it that things can go back to normal so quickly with his friends. Thinking about it and watching his friends fight comically, Tsuna decided he liked it that way better. Inside the clean, tidy, and lack of crowds hallways of Namimori, the SC. Hull's head perfect walked to his office while looking over Agnella Walker's files. Earlier, he went to all of Agnella's teachers to pick up work and take a look at her files he got from the principal's office. Habari was admittedly surprised to learn that Agnella grew up in a Russian military base. He suddenly realized that that was the reason she did not complain, even though she didn't seem to be the soldier type. As Habari looked through some more, he found that she was a genius in building super buildings and math. Nothing much more than that, Habari found, was written. He suspected that any of Agnella's connections to the baby are covered up. But, even so, Habari felt that this was no ordinary herbivore. Then Habari finally caught himself. Why was he going through this student's folder? Did it matter to Habari if he knew more about the herbivore, or cared if she was special? Scowling, Habari bit the thought away and walked back into his office to find his second-in-command perfect. Kusakabe sitting down at a table with Agnella at his side, talking. Habari, for reasons he could not fathom, he felt bothered by this, just a tinge, but it was still there and Habari could feel it. Kusakabe turned around in his seat, followed by Agnella to meet his especially steely gaze. Habari frowned and walked forward to the herbivores. Want some pie, Habari-kun? Agnella asks easily, turning slightly in her seat to let a half-eaten apple pie in a tin pan into the perfect's view. Kusakabe was shocked when the sweet, smart-looking girl asked Habari to join her for something and used familiar honorific. And even more shocked that Habari only gave an HN at her and went back to his desk to do some more paperwork. It seemed like today, Kusakabe's job as being surprised, he had come into the room to find the girl inside and all by herself, eating pie and with high bird with her. He flew away when Kusakabe got near. He tried to get the girl to leave before Habari came, but her UTH was so stuffed with pie she couldn't speak and only stared at him as she chewed through that darn pie. When she could speak, she had told Kusakabe that she was ordered to stay and offered some pie that he politely refused. Herbivore, here is your school work. Get to it. Habari broke the silence as he stacked a pile of paper next to a taller stack of paper that was looming over the perfect's desk. Agnella looked surprised at size the stack and walked over and took it. At the base, her usual paperwork was at least 5 times bigger than this. As she walked up to Habari's desk, she smiled her lopsided smile at him, silently saying, "Thanks." Habari looked at her for a second, emotionless, and turned back to his work. Normally, if a girl smiled at Habari, he would have threatened to bite her, but he decided against it. She did seem intent on doing her work and herbivores can't work with broken fingers. Agnella sat back down on the couch to start on her work, with pencil in hand. She skimmed through the work, most of it Japanese writing. She knew Japanese to an extent like a second-grade status. That's sad for a middle school pupil, but numbers and calculations, and especially something you had to make physical sense of, is what Agnella is superior in. She recognized the geometry problems on her paper immediately and answered the question just by glancing over it. She's been solving problems like these in the real world and in blueprints since she was 8. From where Habari was sitting, it looked like she was guessing on her work, slacking. Habari does not like slacking. He rose swiftly out of his seat and strode gracefully over to Agnella. He looks to Agnella with a cold gaze. Agnella, who was leaning over her table, writing quickly, felt the gaze on her and too RNED her head up to meet the unfriendly stare. Slacking? Habari asked in a low, dangerous voice. Agnella stared up to Habari. Slacking? This isn't geometry. Agnella asked, holding up her paper up to Habari's face. Feeling quite confused. She's been working with this sort of math forever, did she really mistake it? Maybe is algebra or simplified calculus? Habari checked the first 3 problems mentally, expecting all 3 to be wrong, only to be surprised that no work has been done, but only the right answer was written below the problem. He checked the rest in his head. All correct, Habari stated after an intense silence. Kusakabe, who was being a nervous bystander the entire time, had fully expected Agnella to be kicked out, got detention or some sort of punishment for skimming through the math homework. He would be lying if he said he thought Agnella was actually answering the questions correctly. Habari felt something tug at his instincts and glanced at the clock on the opposite side of the room. Go out for patrol, I'll stay here, Habari said to Kusakabe as he walked back to his desk. Yes sir, he replied with a bow and left with his eyes lingering with a worried gaze on Agnella before leaving the room. Agnella only smiled at him and gave a small wave. A few more moments and Agnella set down her pencil and the math work and picked up the Japanese class work. Habari caught the strained look on her face as she looked at the characters. Agnella, while living in Russia, only learned Japanese to talk to the Japanese scientists during world meetings. She learned just a simple dialogue to communicate with the Japanese, but she took an interest in Japan and learned the rest of it. Agnella never bothered learning how to read and write in Japanese, being sure that she'll never use it, at least. That's what her superiors told her. You're Russian, right? Habari asked Agnella. Yes, I am Russian, Agnella answered, blank-faced. You probably don't read or write in Japanese, even though you speak it. Habari said flatly. Her face lit up with surprise. Looking embarrassed and slightly ashamed, Agnella said, yes, in the smallest voice she could muster. Habari frowned. Tokyo and other larger cities have Japanese writing classes for foreigners, Namimori does not. Ah, yes, Agnella has lived in Russia most of her life, and has only learned to speak, read and write in Russian, French and English. She may speak Japanese, but her superiors never bothered to teach her kanji or anything else. Reborn said, climbing through an open window wearing a Russian military costume. Wow, how did you know? Do you serve in the Russian military too, sir? Agnella asked, buying Reborn's costume completely. Chaosu, Reborn said his usual greeting. Habari just stared at Reborn for a moment. Infant, why are you here? Are you going to fight me? Habari asked, grinning, and bringing out his tonfas from under his coat. Ignoring the fact that Habari called the soldier, infant, Agnella let her eyes widen at Habari. Suddenly, Agnella grabbed something black from her boots and swung it forward with a firm flick, revealing a pitch-black SWAT piton. Agnella had a serious expression as she blocked Reborn from Habari. I will never allow anyone to harm a Russian soldier as long as I'm around, she said firmly, her chocolate eyes turning protective. Reborn smirked at this. No. Wing Agnella devotion and loyalty towards the Russian military. He predicted that this devotion would become a pillar of understanding between the Cloud Guardian and Agnella the soldier. Habari stared emotionlessly at the two as he put his tonfas away. What do you want then? Habari asked in a tone that any other person would take as threatening, but knowing Habari, this is as kind as it gets, even if Habari does respect Reborn. Reborn smiled. He's not attacking Agnella. Good, he thought before saying, I'm dropping off some requests for new equipment that General Itsov would like you to make. Reborn lied as he held up some complicated, sketchy-looking blueprints from nowhere that he wrote 5 minutes ago. Agnella slammed the point of the SWAT piton down onto the floor, retracting it ND placed it back onto the side of her boot. She turned around and stared at the blueprints, analyzing. Strange. What kind of energy works like that? Agnella exclaimed with wide eyes. Never in her life has she ever laid eyes on something like this. Strange, I'll need to work with the nervous system, huh? A challenge. Interesting, Agnella said with her lopsided smile. She set it down, on the window sill next to Reborn's feet. When is it due? Did General Itsov say when it's supposed to be done, all 7 of them? She asked eagerly. Reborn smirked at Agnella's eager-to-please face, knowing he successfully baited her. He got a mission from the 9th for Tsuna and his guardians, and he knew convincing Habari to go would be the most trouble. He guessed that if he befriends Agnella, his animalistic protective ways would force him to come along, when Agnella comes to the dangerous mission. It was a pain convincing Itsov, the general of the Russian military, to let Agnella go. Reborn knew darn well it'd be hell convincing Habari to go without a motive. Tsuna at his current state probably couldn't keep up with a fight with his Cloud Guardian if Reborn bribed a fight with him for Habari. Despite Tsuna being the boss. But Habari hasn't quite got there in friendship just yet. Reborn got Agnella to Japan a couple of days just before the official mission, so she and Habari could establish some sort of relationship during the long-term mission, and possibly make things more interesting along the way. As soon as possible, Reborn answered, resting his hand on the pants line of his Russian military costume. Habari, who now slightly curious about the blueprints, gave Reborn a calm stare. Agnella looked conflicted but replied firmly, yes sir, then saluted Reborn with her posture line straight and military perfect, wearing a stony expression on her face. Reborn saluted her back, mimicking her posture, smirk intact. Habari raised his eyebrows but said nothing. Carry on, Miss Walker. And when you're done with the project, give them to Tsuna Sawada, and with that, Reborn jumped out the window. The 10th Vongola. Agnella wondered for a moment. Agnella noticed the blueprints sitting on the window sill that the soldier gave her. She picked it up and read it over again. Weird, thought Agnella, this sort of energy is so bizarre, kind of like the rings Reborn had. And the energy from his pacifier, but the energy for this is different. Habari studied the subtle expressions that flicked across Agnola's overall confused face as she turned on her heel and walked over to the table that her stuff was on. She opened up one of the identical suitcases, revealing a wide range of tools, some common, some looking very bizarre. Agnola reached inside of the suitcase's many compartments and took out a long, solid steel cylinder about 1.5 inches in diameter. Using what Habari guessed was a bone saw, she cut the steel cylinder into 7 equal pieces. "And I'll just continue when we get home, Habari-kun," Agnola said as she put the metal pieces back into the suitcase and closed it with a click. Habari replied coolly. Just then a loud, jazzy song echoed into the room. Agnola reached into her coat pocket and pulled out a red cell phone. She flipped it open and the racy song ended. "Hello, this is Agnola Walker speaking, Agnel." I asked in Russian and what Agnola actually said. "Zdravstvuyte, Ito Agnola Uolker Govorya." Habari held his menacing gaze on Agnola, who spoke in a strange language. A little noise came from the phone and Agnola's eyes widened with joy. "Isaac, Miria, hey, how are you two?" she exclaimed in English, leaving Habari feeling uneasy with the lack of familiarity, but slightly impressed by Agnola's knowledge of foreign languages. "How are the others?" Agnola asked excitedly in an accented, but good enough English. The noise and commotion coming from the other end and Agnola's smile widened as she said, "Oh hi Firo, Ennis. Cheslaw, how are things in New York?" More commotion and multiple voices came from the other end of Agnola's phone and she laughed. "Ah, that's wonderful. So when is the baby due?" "Oh, I'm so happy for Keith and Kate." Agnola squealed in delight. Habari glanced at Agnola's smiling face, and so quickly that even if Reborn was still there, he would had to ally concentrate to see the very quick flash of a shallow, but honest smile on his face that even Habari didn't know he smiled. Agnola, who was facing oppositely of Habari, starting laughing and talking loudly on the phone, with a wide, smirk-like smile never noticed. She was beaming in happiness and Habari felt sort of calm around her friendliness even though he didn't have a clue what she was saying. Habari, who near this time did his patrol when the first period classes were dismissed, left his office. As he walked through the halls of Nami Middle, he felt something holding him back. He normally likes scaring herbivore and biting random ones, but for some reason felt a need to go back to his office. Habari thought this was strange because all of his work was done, and it was time for patrol. Habari, for a split second, thought that his want to be back because he wanted to be near Agnola. As soon as the thought came, Habari violently bit it away, making the school perfect baffled at what he did and successfully put Habari in a foul mood. More so than usual. Anyway, the poor, undeserving students passing to their next class were left to deal with a grumpier than usual Habari and confused. Even though he'll never admit it. Before long, it was lunchtime and Agnola finished all of her homework and class work, with the help of Isaac and Miria who know more than they seem. Agnola felt relieved to know some Japanese writing now and she was even able to work on the project the Russian soldier Reborn in disguise gave her a little more. Habari came back into the office just before the lunch bell rang and when Agnola hung up her phone. "Herbivore, it's lunch break," Habari said. Agnola looked surprised, but grinned back anyway. "So, what do I do?" she asked innocently, but received a glare from Habari. "Stupid herbivore," he commented. Agnola has never once in her life been officially schooled, only to learn math and languages in the military, so she has no idea what to expect. On the bright side, this has been one of the most exciting days for Agnola, but all this excitement has left her starving, and lunch does sound good right now. Habari knew he felt some sort of attachment to the herbivore, and felt like he needed to prove to himself that he can send her off alone in a classroom and not feel regret. "You're going to eat with other herbivore," Habari simply stated, half-heartedly answering Agnola's question. Agnola gave a confused stare. "Follow me," Habari demanded as turned around and headed out the door again. Agnola shuffled to get her bags and suitcase and jogged to catch up with the perfect in the hallway. In Tsuna's classroom, the class ate lunch with hushed conversation, gossiping about the girl who seems untouchable by the fearsome school perfect. Hearing the gossip made Tsuna depressed. Tsuna sighed down at his mama's homemade bento. He has been feeling worried about Walker-san all during class, the gossip helped, and barely paying attention to the lessons. He felt guilty for making Agnella come all the way to Japan from Russia. And he felt even guiltier for making her work for the mafia and to be with Habari. I must be one terrible person. What if she's hurt? I hurt a girl, didn't I? I'm the worst, Tsuna thought gloomily. Tsuna thought she was nice, maybe could befriend Kyoko and give her little hints for him. But, Tsuna thought, she must hate me by now. Gokudera noticed his boss's expression and made it beeline, through crowding fangirls right over to him. What's wrong 10th? He asked with concern in his voice. Yamamoto, who sat next to Tsuna, joined in the conversation. Is it Walker-san? He asked. No one asked you, baseball freak. Gokudera shouted at Yamamoto's cheerful face. Yamamoto gave a small laugh. Tsuna, who didn't lift his head from his bento, nodded his head meekly. Gokudera's eyes went soft and said, don't worry about her. If Reborn knows her then she must be strong, right? But Reborn said she needed protection because she was being targeted by the mafia and foreign governments. Tsuna argued, lifting his head to meet his concerned gaze with Gokudera's eyes. Gokudera wasn't sure what to say to that. Gokudera's sentence was cut off by the sound of the door of the classroom opening. All eyes shifted to the girl with the ebony black suitcases, and he ominous head perfect of the school right behind her. Walker-san, Tsuna shouted in surprise in the room filled with silence, their gossip with Agnella's sudden appearance. Agnella looked to Tsuna, smiled and waved. Tsuna felt himself smile back at the girl's good-natured persona. Then, Habari's intense gaze landed on Tsuna for his sudden outburst. Tsuna froze in his seat. Habari scoffed in disgust of Tsuna's herbivore-ness and turned his head towards the teacher. The herbivore will eat here. I need to do something, Habari said with his usual menace. The math teacher, who was also scared of Habari, gave a shrill nod. Habari nodded and left, not without giving Agnella a quick glance that nobody, except for Tsuna, caught. He glanced at Walker-san. Does that mean he cares already? Tsuna thought cheerfully. A sudden image of a kinder and less violent Habari crossed his mind as he thought of Agnella and Habari as friends. School would be so much less frightening. Tsuna thought blissfully, now the only one besides Yamamoto who had a pleasant and unfearful expression on their face in the classroom. Yamamoto was the one to break the suffocating silence. Ah, Walker-san, want to eat lunch with us? He said cheerfully, wearing his usual smile. Yamamoto's voice seemed to break all of the tension in the room, as the students started up chatter and gossip again. Agnella led back at Yamamoto as she took a seat at the desk in front of Tsuna, ignoring Gokudera's protests. She turned around and faced Tsuna with a calm smile. Tsuna blinked at her, not knowing what to say. After all, she could be the one to make Namimori less violent and an actually safe place. You must be the 10th, am I right? She said innocently, accent and all. Tsuna suddenly looked despaired and his head dropped. I'm not a mafioso, he cried. Gokudera looked shocked. Of course you are 10th. Who told you that you weren't? I'll blow them up. Please don't blow anything up, Gokudera-kun. Gokudera looked at Tsuna with admiration-filled eyes. You're so admirable and kind, 10th. You are the perfect boss. He gushed comically. Little sparkles of admiration floated and glistening. In the golden sunlight that engulfed the smiling terrorist, am I descriptive enough? Yamamoto just smiled and nodded, not really knowing what his two best friends are talking about. Agnella mad, a quick incline of her head as well and said, Reborn said many great things about you, Tsuna-sama. With her usual lopsided smile. Tsuna was in disbelief, really? Yes, of course, Agnella said cheerfully. But somehow didn't seem honest. Tsuna felt that she might be adding sugar to whatever Reborn actually said. Tsuna let his expression turn. Reborn was here, 1. Agnella didn't seem to notice the dismay on Tsuna's face as she suddenly leaned closer to Tsuna's ear and said in a loud whisper, and I'll have that project ready for you as soon as possible. Tsuna just stared at the girl confused. What project? Gokudera asked determinedly, not wanting to be left out on anything Tsuna related. The rings, of course, Agnella answered while pulling a canteen filled with borscht and so. Me pirozhki, these are typical Russian food. Tsuna looked confusedly at the food Agnella pulled out, then at Agnella. Tsuna already won the ring conflict, what other rings does he need? Tsuna panicked. What rings? He asked urgently. Agnella looked at Tsuna with big eyes. The translator rings. A Russian soldier came by today and gave me these blueprints and told me to give them to you when I was done. Don't worry, we won't talk about it here just in case of enemy families. Agnella began as she pulled the blueprints that Reborn, or the Russian soldier, gave her. Like the actual military, Russian government, Russia. Tsuna panicked as he stared at Agnella. Tsuna grabbed the papers from Agnella and looked over them only to have a strained look across his face. As he held the papers closer to his face, he notices how complicated the pictures look, and the language. Everything on the blue paper was written in was bizarre and foreign looking. What language is this? Tsuna said, feeling overwhelmed by the complicated pictures and symbols. Russian, Agnella answered easily. Not only did Tsuna not understand any Russian at all, but now he knew he really didn't know what Agnella was talking about, project, and all. Tsuna sighed heavily and his shoulders slumped. What's wrong, Tsuna-kun? A pretty girl with orange hair asked kindly, wearing a warm smile. An equally pretty girl, with brown hair that is pinned up, stood next to her. Yeah, Tsuna. You've been looking so gloomy. Kyoko, Haru, Tsuna said the girls, surprised. Tsuna's eyes wandered slightly to Kyoko and could feel his cheeks heat up. Gokudera growled at Haru and Yamamoto just smiled friendlily at the two girls. Agnella stared at Tsuna's blush before saying, say l'amour, in a teasing tone and a sly smile. Tsuna didn't understand what Agnella said, and he was also sure that wasn't even Russian. What love? Kyoko asked innocently, staring kindly at the Russian. Say l'amour equals it's love. Agnella just snickered. Tsuna, who panicked upon hearing the words, love, from Kyoko, turned his head fast enough to snap it back to Agnella. She knows I like Kyoko. Tsuna panicked in thought. Agnella took Tsuna's panicked expression in another snicker and turned back to Kyoko and said, oh, vous parlez français? Comment vous appelez-vous? She asked in a language that Tsuna didn't know, Gokudera didn't know, and he knew Yamamoto didn't know. But Kyoko seemed to know. Tsuna started to frantically make up incoherent sentences at the Russian and Kyoko while they spoke what sounded like complicated gibberish to him. Oui, mademoiselle, je m'appelle Kyoko. Comment vous appelez-vous? Kyoko answered slowly and in an amateur, but with a delighted gleam in her eyes. Kyoko never met a female foreigner before, and this was exciting to her. Gokudera, Yamamoto and Haru watched as strange words were passed between the girls. Tsuna's hands were in his face as he bared torture to listen to a conversation between the girl he liked and another girl who knew he liked her, in a foreign language. Agnella's harmless fun ended when she said in Japanese, Kyoko, your French isn't bad. Speak faster and the natural accent will come to you. As well as the pronunciations, she said encouragingly. Kyoko's face lit up. Really, you think I can speak French? She said with dreamy eyes. Tsuna couldn't help but to fight the blush off his cheeks at Kyoko's smile. Agnella nodded with a kind expression at Kyoko, which turned mischievous when her eyes landed on Tsuna. Teasing time, Agnella thought evilly, and Tsuna could feel it. Blackmail. I knew this girl couldn't be as innocent while still being friends with Reborn. Tsuna thought with dread. Oh yeah, Agnella, Yamamoto asked, gaining Agnella's attention. How was your stay with Habari-san? He asked with a smile. Tsuna, who completely forgot Agnella's dangerous position, jumped into the conversation. What did he do? You're not hurt, are you? He asked concernedly. Agnella looked at Tsuna blankly. Haru and Kyoko just looked to Agnella, confused. You mean, if I fell? Well, I'm not really clumsy, Agnella began, not fully understanding what they meant. Tsuna's mouth fell agape. She's not hurt, and not terrified, pale or shivering. Tsuna concluded with shock. Habari gave me my school work and I talked to my friends in New York, America for help with Japanese, Agnella said. Pleased with her first school day experience. Whoa, you know some Americans, Agnella? Yamamoto asked excitedly. Do they play baseball a lot there? Tsuna, Haru and Kyoko just smiled at Yamamoto's love for baseball, and Gokudera just looked plain out annoyed. Well, it is America's favorite pastime. My friends Isaac and Miria like baseball, we play together time to time, Agnella said. Remembering some baseball games she played with those two. Yamamoto's smile widened with a gleam made of sunshine and happiness glittered cheerfully in his eyes. Lol, baseball freak. Ah, I really want to visit America. You should, it's a really wonderful place. I plan on living in New York with my friends one day. Agnella stated cheerfully. Agnella's happiest moments were with Isaac, Miria, Firo, Meza, Luck and the others in New York City. Their legacy and souls seemed to be indestructible and everlong, and Agnella dearly enjoyed every moment she shared with the strange, yet friendly group. Besides, Agnella has a good feeling that her father is somewhere in America. Agnella made it a life goal to find him, or his grave one day. America is all right, Gokudera commented casually. He's been to America before, but he prefers his home, Italy, or with his 10th to the Big Apple. Wow, that's so neat, Kyoko said with a light-hearted smile that made Tsuna blush. Tsuna looked nervously between his two friends and Agnella, feeling left out and outshined by his peers. They're so cool. They've been to other countries. I've only been to Mafia Land once. And I didn't do anything but train, Tsuna thought, slightly depressed. Agnella, I'm curious, Yamamoto said suddenly, attracting everyone's attention. How is it like in Russia? Wow, the baseball idiot makes a reasonable question, Gokudera said sarcastically. Tsuna just leaned forward to hear Agnella's answer. He really did wonder what Russia is like. It's covered in snow year-round where I live, northern Russia. But it's peaceful and there's lots of frozen lakes to skate on. Agnella answered with a containing look to her. Tsuna felt something off about how she answered, but let it pass. She's probably just tired from traveling, right? Sounds like a winter wonderland, Haru said with dreamy, spacey smile. Agnella laughed and said, yeah, basically. Everyone laughed along. Reborn stood just outside the classroom door. On the window, he smiled at his student and his family. He knew that Agnella could give them strength, and finish his little project for the next mission. Reborn knew that the next mission is bizarre and a risky one, but with Habari on their side, nothing too bad will happen, if he feels like helping the rest of them, that is. They're ready, probably. If they're not, too bad. They can learn on the job. After all, autumn is approaching. I realize how awful the chapters are formatted, so I'll be fixing the rest of them later. Agnella is a bit of a Mary Sue, I won't lie. I wrote this when I was young, but decided to post it anyway. It was an entertaining idea at the time, laughing face. By the way, this takes place in Katekyo Hitman Reborn, between the Varia and Future arc. It's retarded in timeline terms. But, it's pretty entertaining. Please review, but don't read the next chapters till I say so. Chapter 2. Fanfiction. Yay. It's fanfiction that's long and kind of retarded in a way. Yay. Chapter 2, in which doctors are not always helpful. Tsuna felt a little surprised to find that Agnella was so easy to befriend. She had this cheery charm to her that made it hard to not like her. Picano fans. Isaac and Miria influence. Gokudera is still giving her the cold shoulder, but he might warm up to her. Tsuna thought contently. Lunch was about to end and Agnella will go back to the school's fearsome perfect soon, which frightened Tsuna to no end. She might be okay now, but what after class, or if Agnella wakes Habari up from a nap or something? Tsuna sighed as he looked in front of him. To find that Agnella wasn't sitting there. Tsuna looked around and found Agnella with Kyoko and Haru, chatting happily near the window. Well, Kyoko and Haru looked happy, but Agnella seemed off. She looked sort of sick and tired. Walking away from Kyoko and Haru suddenly, Agnella started to stumble, and then she fell like a sack of flour. Tsuna's eyes widened and Yamamoto shouted, Agnella, what's wrong? She started to shake slightly and managed a weak, half-hearted smile that hinted reassurance that was weakened by the weariness and fatigue look in her eyes. Kyoko and Haru ran over to Agnella and started to ask her questions like, are you okay? What's wrong? Tsuna, Yamamoto and Gokudera ran over to Agnella with the eyes of the classroom following them. As Tsuna got closer to Agnella, he noticed how short her breaths were, like she was suffocating on air. The teacher ran over to Agnella's body that lay crumpled on the floor. The teacher started panicking as he yelled to the group of students behind him, take her to the nurse. Yamamoto nodded and hurled Agnola's body over his shoulders and sprinted out the door. The class was left in an eerie silence. Tsuna, what's wrong with An-chan? Kyoko asked with tears welling behind her eye. That was enough to shoot adrenaline through Tsuna. Without thinking, Tsuna ran out the door, with a serious-faced Gokudera in pursuit. They caught up with Yamamoto, whose face was free from smiles. Yamamoto only nodded at them and proceeded to run to the nurse's office, as the lunch bell rang. Habari made his way to the herbivores class just before the lunch bell rang. He would have sworn he heard running in the halls, but decided to let the other discipline committee take care of it. He opened the door to T. He classroom only to find the classroom unnaturally silent and worried. Habari looked to the teacher, who looked quite shaken up himself. What happened? He asked. The teacher looked towards Habari, with his fearful eyes growing more fearful as he caught sight of the school head prefect. Walker-san, he began timidly. Habari, on the inside, felt something tug at his instincts. Where is she? New. RSE, was all the teacher got out before the head prefect stormed out of the door, and headed to the nurse's office. The three and an unconscious Agnella landed just outside the nurse's office and charged in briskly. A certain womanizing doctor looked to the three boys in distaste. When his eyes landed on the girl on Yamamoto's shoulder, he let out his womanizing grin show. Finally, you three let a girl in this office. Girls seem to avoid this place for some reason, Shamal said with obliviousness. Gee, I really wonder why. Gokudera barked back with sarcasm. Shamal only shrugged his shoulder and gave a calm look. Tsuna started to panic. W. Walker-san, she fell and I think she's hurt, Tsuna stuttered out. Shamal looked surprised and gestured Yamamoto to put her on the nurse's bed. I don't know what it's called. I know it's a bed for patients at a nurse's office. Upon laying Agnola's body on the bed, Shamal began his womanizing. Wow, I'm so lucky I get to treat such a pretty girl. Is she foreign? She definitely looks like it. I used to date with American girl. And you're a doctor. What's your degree in? Pedoism. Gokudera yelled at Shamal. If Shamal had any shame, he's hiding it well. Well, I'm hurt, Gokudera. I'm just complimenting this pretty girl. Where's the harm in that? Shamal said not so innocently. It is when you're not healing her, you retarded doctor. Gokudera shouted back. Tsuna was beyond extremely worried for Agnella. With all this stress, how is Tsuna so healthy, whose breaths were becoming shorter, and her skin reddening considerably? Shamal-san, please just help Walker-san. Tsuna pleaded with tears in his eyes. Gokudera refuses to have his 10th be worried. Seeing his boss like that, he snapped. With a scowl attached to his face and his fist around Shamal's shirt. Gokudera opened his mouth to yell at Shamal, but was interrupted. Herbivore, why aren't you treating this student? Habari asked coldly from the door frame, a glare targeted directly at the doctor. Shamal visibly paled. Just then a low moan emitted from the nurse's bed. Agnella shifted slightly and moved her head towards the direction of the voices. Slowly, she began to open her eyes weakly. Shamal moved towards Agnella while in a chair and looked her in the eyes. Reddening of the skin, fatigue, fainting, Shamal began to name off Agnella's symptoms. I've never seen you before. Where are you from? Russia. Shamal nodded his head and walked briskly towards a cabinet. What's wrong with Walker-san? Tsuna asked nervously. Heat stroke. There's no doubt. Hamal answered as he wet a cloth with water. He turned and set the cloth over Agnella's forehead. Heat stroke. Tsuna said confused. It wasn't hot at all today. Then Shamal began to remove Agnella's vest. What are you doing? Habari questioned with cold and angry eyes at Shamal's actions. Shamal's face grew fearful and led a shaky smile towards the frightful perfect. This is how you treat heat stroke patients. You don't want her to slip into a coma, do you? Shamal asked the perfect bravely. Coma. Tsuna yelled out and looked panicked, worriedly at Agnella's dazed look. Yeah, you have to. Gradually cool her down with wet towels too, Shamal said loudly, to make sure the angry perfect would hear him. Habari looked irritated but said nothing as Shamal began removing more of her clothing. Until she was in her skirt and undershirt. Habari was now very pissed as he asked, why did she get heat stroke? Russia gets really cold, of course. Reborn said in his usual clothes, standing at Agnella's feet. Reborn. Tsuna and Gokudera said, surprised at Reborn's sudden appearance. Chaosu. Reborn gave his usual greeting. Hey, it's the kid, Yamamoto said seriously, but still getting the situation wrong. Habari just raised his eyebrow at Reborn, admittedly surprised by his second appearance today. Agnella must have been suffering since this morning, Reborn said, ignoring the stares he received. Habari remained silent, even though his curiosity was not. This morning, Tsuna asked, very confusedly. She ran at the sound of your scream, despite feeling rather hot. After all, where she lives, it's usually around -40 degrees. Reborn continued. That's cold, Gokudera exclaimed. She must have felt it for hours but didn't say anything, Reborn said, nodding in agreement to himself. Tsuna was shocked to hear this. Why didn't she say anything if she was feeling so terrible all day? Well, at least it'll be semi-suitable temperature for Agnella, at your new mission, Reborn said flatly. Habari cast a glance at Reborn, with a questioning look silent in his menacing eyes. Tsuna did the opposite. What mission? Tsuna knew Reborn gave hard missions without telling him. And even harder ones just before the actual mission. Reborn just smirked. Who knows? You know, Tsuna argued with his mouth agape and eyes wide. Don't worry 10th. Let me handle this, Gokudera said with a reassuring smile. Gokudera, Tsuna said in awe for his friend. Oi, tell the 10th what's going on. Gokudera shouted, earning a glare from Habari that he ignored. He just demanded what I just asked, Tsuna concluded quietly. His short-lived awe for his friend disappearing. Ha ha, are we going to play a new game? Yamamoto laughed. You could say that, Reborn said, titling his fedora down, hiding his evil smirk. Tsuna shrank away from the scary infant. Don't worry Mr. Vongola. I feel a lot better, Agnella said softly with a forced smile on top of a grim expression. Tsuna nearly fainted at her expression. It was like when an anime character was about to die. Shamal took this as his cue. Hey, don't push yourself, beautiful, Shamal said with a flirtatious face with no trace of shame of hitting on a gravely ill girl half his age. Habari glowered at the doctor. Teachers and school staff showing affections for students is prohibited, Habari stated with numbing coldness. He pulled out his tonfas from under his jacket. Hey, I didn't do anything, Shamal said shakily with his palms in the air, trying to make peace with the Cloud Guardian to no avail. Habari took a street EP forward from the door frame to the shaking doctor, just before Reborn spoke up. Careful, you don't want to accidentally hurt An-chan, do you? He said mockingly. Habari stared at Reborn with cold, animalistic eyes, and then let his eyes land on the doctor and they erupted in angry gray flames. Lastly, Habari's eyes landed on Agnella and barely softened but noticeable in Reborn's eyes. Habari scoffed indifferently and lowered his tonfas, and said, students aren't allowed to die on campus. He added a new rule to the school policy. Good, Reborn thought. Tsuna, Gokudera, and Yamamoto were shocked at Habari's actions but remained silent. After all, there's an important matter at hand. Shamal noticed the worried look in his student's eyes and his own softened slightly. She'll be ready to go back to class in 15, Shamal said reassuring. The boys seemed to relax. All right, thanks Doc, Yamamoto said happily, grin intact. Yeah, I guess you're really not that useless after all, Gokudera muttered crossly. Hey, I only treat women, Shamal defended himself. Yamamoto just laughed. Tsuna gave an, I can't believe that this guy is a doctor face, and Gokudera looked more annoyed than usual. Get to class, herbivore, Habari said with a well-practiced death glare. Tsuna stiffened, Yamamoto grinned and Gokudera just scoffed as the three walked out, giving their goodbyes to Agnella who returned them with a forced smile. Just before all of them were out the door, Tsuna said, what about Walker-san? Worriedly, Habari just stared at Tsuna before replying. Flatly, I'll stay here. Tsuna froze in wonder for a moment before Yamamoto's voice called him back. Tsuna, let's go back to class. A light. Habari let out a scoff, herbivores, and turned back to Agnella who appeared to be unconscious again. She held her strength just long enough to say goodbye to her worrying friends. What an herbivore. Habari thought with a ghost of an amused smile pulling at the corners of his mouth. Tsuna, Gokudera and Yamamoto made it to class to find everyone as worried as they left them as. Gokudera, Yamamoto-kun, what happened? The girls of the class asked. Tsuna couldn't help but to notice that they didn't bother asking him. Tsuna-kun. A kind voice broke from the crowd that was swarming around Yamamoto and Gokudera. Insert an angry Gokudera and a smiling Yamamoto here. Tsuna turned to see Haru's worried face running towards him, Kyoko in suit. Is An-chan all right? Kyoko said with her eyes brimming with tears. Tsuna spazzed fiercely and stuttered out, why yeah, drive. Shamal says she can come back to class in a few minutes. Kyoko and Haru's face suddenly lifted at the news. That's good. But what on earth happened to her? Haru asked slightly fearful. Dr. S. Hamal says it was heat stroke, Tsuna answered. Kyoko blinked her eyes in confusion, but broke into an understanding look. That makes sense, especially if she lived in northern Russia. Tsuna couldn't help but to feel a sort of pride that his crush is so smart, being able to solve a mystery Tsuna had to ask a pervert doctor to solve. Kyoko suddenly looked distraught. What is it, Kyoko-chan? Tsuna asked in alarm. You didn't stay with her? She asked. Tsuna suddenly felt guilty as he answered, no. Haru's eyes widened. She's all by herself. Kyoko looked surprised and looked to Tsuna for his answer. With another blush and more stutters Tsuna replies, no, Habari stayed behind for her. Haru looked thoughtful as she digested the words. You mean that scary guy? Yeah, Tsuna answered with a tinge of guilt picking at him. I left a girl under the care of the scariest guy in Namimori. Well, at least he can protect her, Kyoko added optimistically. Thank you Kyoko-chan, Tsuna thought gratefully. TCH, there's something wrong with those girls, they need help. Gokudera, there's nothing wrong with them, they're just excited. Yeah, for what? Baseball idiot. Well, the two contrasting voices argued. One innocently, the other in an I'd rather kill you tone. The two managed to break from the crowd to be with their friend Tsuna. Yamamoto-kun, Gokudera-san. Kyoko remarked as the two fangirl magnets boys made their way to the brunette boy. Ma, what a ruckus, Yamamoto said enthusiastically. TCH, it's because of all of the criminally insane girls that go to this school. Gokudera added bitterly. Tsuna could only sweat dropped at Gokudera's density. Hey Tsuna, do you think Agnella is all right? Yamamoto asked with a carefree smile pastured on his face. His eyes showed worry that cracked his happy facade. Tsuna considered Shamal's treatment and the unpredictable factor, Habari. I'm not sure, Tsuna answered honestly. The group couldn't help but to share worried looks. Habari would like to be doing many other things on this school, anything but to stand here and be near this barely eligible doctor. How did the pedo even manage to pass the school's background check anyway? Habari would just leave, but he didn't want to leave Agnella at the hands of this perverted doctor. Not that he cared, of course, he doesn't want Namimori to have a pedophile case floating around his school. Well, my pretty little lady, you should be able to leave quite soon. Too bad, Shamal said with womanizing gleam in his eye. Agnella, now in full clothing, would have sworn he was hitting on her. If it wasn't the fact that he was a doctor. This man wouldn't work here if he passed the background check of this school, Agnella concluded, with a lot doubts clouding her assumption. She rubbed her arm slightly where the man let a mosquito bite her that apparently healed her. Shamal scooted closer to Agnella again, and she tried to shift away from the pedo. She felt rather uncomfortable under the shady doctor's gaze. Well, since I'm all better, I should back to learning and whatnot. Agnella says quickly and feeling awkward. Wait, I have to take your temperature to make sure you doesn't faint again, right? After all, we can't go on just on looks, which you have, he said smoothly, and way too close to her face. Agnella felt the sudden need for an adult that's not Shamal. In the door frame stood Habari, who was emitting a dangerously dark and threatening aura. Every remark Shamal made irked Habari's stretching temper. He kept telling himself that he didn't care for the herbivore, but if Shamal made one more remark or get a centimeter closer to Agnella, he will be bitten to death. Suddenly, familiar fast-paced, jazzy and exciting song.com watch. V equals Z7GQQ7ISGOG and feature equals related, emitted from Aniela's pocket, and she swiftly took and snapped her phone open, turning her head away from Shamal, whose face erupted in surprise at the sudden cold gesture. Hello, she says, this time in English. Isaac, Miria, what's up? Aniela asks with a smile playing at the corners of her mouth. There is ruckus and multiple voices on the OT. Her line before Aniela broke out into a surprised smile. Really? That's great, it's awesome. Aniela says excitedly in English, earning the curiosity of Shamal and Habari. Oh wow, I can't wait to see you guys again. More noise comes from the other line, and Aniela lets out a laugh, more talking, then her face turns rigid. Luck's brother. Which one? Aniela said, feeling fear pool in her blood, slowly spreading throughout her body. SSS, so when are you two coming again? She asked, shakingly. Two voices said, Sunday. Enthusiastically. Feeling better on knowing what day could be funeral, Aniela decided that she will stay close to Reborn, just in case he comes. More fast-paced talking on the other line, and Aniela feels more confident. All right, I can't wait. Bye Isaac, bye Miria. Hearing from her good friends made her smile as she closed her phone, while thinking of him in the back of her mind, where despite her smile, was very, very afraid. Shamal, who was trying to get Aniela's attention ever since she got on the phone, was surprised how openly she ignored him, like she was unaware of his entire existence. Habari gave a smirk at this, but kept quiet. Was that person on the phone important enough to ignore me, my dear? Shamal said, much too close to Aniela's face, while grasping her hands in his. Aniela's previous thoughts were erased from her mind as he gave a look of indifference to the man, not sure if it's right to swat away a doctor. Habari decided for Aniela, as he took out his tonfas and started swinging at the sweat-dropping and very scared school nurse. Shamal narrowly dodged these rather forceful attacks that he noticed were aimed at his jugular and his temples, as if Habari wanted Shamal to drop dead now. Shamal was no weakling, but the fearsome school perfect definitely wasn't one either, and proved so as Habari started to manipulate Shamal closer and closer to a corner. Aniela, who grew up to random sprawls both in the military and in New York, concluded this. Boy attacking plus another boy equals boys playing together. So it's easy to say that the dense little Aniela only smiled fondly at Shamal and Habari's bonding, while growing up close to Berga Gandor's fist fights with other mafioso. Habari successfully blocked Shamal in the corner with little inference from Aniela, which he found weird because she's an herbivore. But ignored it as he reared his arm back to swing the steel tonfa at Shamal's throat. Shamal's eyes went fearful to determined as he took out an enclosed fist from inside his pocket at inhuman speeds, and blew powder into the perfect's face with sheer want to live. Habari blinked for a moment in surprise, and a sort of weakening feeling overcoming him, bucking his knees forwards as he collapsed in a sitting position. If Habari hates anything with a passion, it's being restrained. He will die, as the main words ringing in Habari's head right now. Shamal ran away from the paralyzed teen. No. The effects of the drug will sure as hell not work long at all on him. Before he could make it out the door, he looked back at the fiercely glaring Habari, and his eyes wandered to the confused Aniela that went to Habari's side after he fell. With a straight face, "Call me," was the last words Shamal said before running away from his office like it was on fire, and the hallways, Nami Middle and Nami Mori, was an inferno. Habari's gaze grew impossibly dark, and his steel eyes turned vicious. With sheer willpower, Habari got up to his feet, unshaken, a feat that would have took a normal person at least half an hour to move a finger. Habari strongly wanted to chase after the pervert doctor, and beat him to a bloody pulp for one. Reframing Habari, and two, showing affection to a minor in Habari's school, but decided to find him later. Or let the discipline committee find him for Habari, whichever comes first. Habari is reluctant to say so, but the powder Shamal blew into Habari's face is making Habari feel sluggish. He probably can't swing nearly as fast and hard in his current state. But Habari will get better, and Habari will make Shamal pay. Aniela noticed Habari's dark expression and gave an apologetic look, feeling that she was the one that should have done something. Sorry, Aniela said, not really knowing what to say to the stoic teen. Habari didn't look at her as he took slow and measured steps towards the door. With Agnella right behind him, fearful that he would fall again. Habari was furious, and didn't make an effort to contain it while his eyes bore holes through the wall in front of him. Habari made it out into the hallway, his animalistic nature fighting the paralyzing agent, and was slowly winning. Habari took a few more steps and caught onto Agnella's words. Habari looked back and gave Agnella a sharp look and said, "For what?" in a low tone. Agnella, who didn't really know why she said sorry either, just smiled an apology, not wanting to say anything more awkward. Habari gave a short huff of annoyance, too preoccupied to try to understand the odd gesture, and just accepted it. Then, while regaining his usual stride in his steps, Habari felt himself not so angry as before. In fact, he felt sort of calm. This alone made his eyebrows furrow as he tried to wonder why he felt so calm, after such a shady attack. It's not like Habari likes being angry. It's just that after Shamal's little stunt, Habari felt like he was going to bite some herbivore, but now, his mind traced back to just a moment ago with Agnella. Habari almost stopped in his tracks at the thought. Did Agnella just calm down the school's fearsome perfect? New York City, America Coraggioso, the Gandor's bar. Hey, Isaac, what's that? Miriam, my dear. Why did Agnella seem so frightened on the phone? A pretty, but ditzy-looking blonde woman asked her true love in the eyes with a worried expression. They were only going to visit her with a friend of both her, Isaac, and Agnella knew. Why be afraid? The brunette man looked to his love with a slight frown. Well, Miria, Agnella is in Japan, where Godzilla lives. It's only natural for a young girl to be afraid of such a beast. Isaac explains with logic, said logic being only useful to the eccentric pair of robbers alone. The woman gasps with hands over her mouth, looking in awe. Oh no, poor Agnella, she's so brave to go to Japan though, she says dreamily. The man only gives a serious expression that almost looks forced on the easygoing man. Yes, this is quite serious. If things get too rough, we might have to save her ourselves, the man declares dramatically, earning the oohs and ahs of the pretty blonde woman that been by his side for so long. Oh my, we should go now, the woman says worriedly, leaning into the man's arm that was around her shoulder. Isaac smiled, nodded at the blonde woman at his side. It's only natural for international thieves who protect their friends, he exclaims with a pleased expression on his face. Protect our friends, Miria copies with enthusiasm, making Isaac smile as he got up from the bar stool he was sitting on, Miria mimicking his actions on the second. Let's go to airport to visit our sister Agnella, Isaac declares in the emptiness of the bar, not including four brothers in the back playing a harmless game of poker. You two are leaving? A sly and calm voice asks from the back of the room, making the enthusiastic duo turn around with blank faces. Their eyes land a sharp-dressed young man with an amused look on his face as he turned around in his seat to face the comical duo. He sets his cards face down and strolls evenly towards the energetic couple. His two brothers lower their cards and look towards Isaac and Miria, all but one man in a black coat who kept his focus on the cards, half-heartedly listening to the conversation of Isaac and Miria. Where are you two going in such a hurry? Luck Gandor asks with that mysterious smirk that makes him look so cynical despite his soft spot for friends and family as he leans coolly against the bar table. Japan. The two answer together and at the same time, as if they've practiced. Luck see me. D surprised at the sudden for the duo to suddenly want to go to Japan, he guessed it was for Agnella. Oh, and we're bringing your brother, Isaac suddenly declared. Yeah, your brother, Miria mimicked. Luck raised his eyebrow at the duo's usual strange behavior, but was at least used to it now to know how to reply to their declarations and possibly get an answer back that will make some sense. But the request made him frown. His brothers aren't exactly in the honest business, and Luck wasn't exactly any better. Which one? Just after school, children in the classroom hurried to get home to start homework or play games. And to avoid being bitten by the head perfect, all except Tsuna, Gokudera and Yamamoto, who for being late, are forced to stay behind and clean the classroom as punishment. I can't believe that scumbag teacher is making the 10th do this, Gokudera says irritably. Yamamoto just smiles sheepishly and says, we were late, Gokudera-kun. Gokudera nearly bit his cigarette. Tay in half in annoyance and started to chew out Yamamoto. Tsuna gave Gokudera an apologizing look, and Gokudera immediately calmed down for his boss. The classroom door suddenly opened on the trio, revealing a certain dark-haired girl. Walker-san, Tsuna said in surprise. Yamamoto smiled and said, "Yo." And Gokudera just scoffed and said, "What's the stupid woman doing here?" "Oh, Habari has some work to do," she answered. And noticed the worried stare Tsuna gave her. "Habari told me that I fainted." Agnella chuckled embarrassedly. "On my first day of school too," she continues quietly with slight disappointment in her voice. Though the teens heard it, Tsuna just looked to Agnella, shocked that she just hinted that she never has been to school before. "You've never been to school before?" Tsuna voiced his thought. Agnella mentally cursed herself for letting Tsuna and others hear that last part. She nods with a smile on her face, but feeling regret and sadness inside, though she'll never show it. "Yeah, I was born into farm life," Agnella meekly states as she wanders inside of the room and grabs an extra broom off a wall and begins to sweep with the boys. "Then how did you begin working for the military?" Tsuna asks, confused enough to not tell Agnella that she doesn't have to share their punishment. Agnella hesitated to say, in case she said too much, but answered anyway. "Well, when I was about 8, some army personnel saw me fixing one of the chicken coops, using things shaped as geometry tools. I don't know, building and stuff like that just came to me." Agnella said as casually as possible. "They can't know. They can't," Agnella thought to herself. Tsuna felt in awe. She is a natural-born architect, and so humble. "I never would have expected you to be born on a farm of all things." Yamamoto adds cheerfully. Inside her mind, Agnella can't help but to think, "And I would do anything to go back." Agnella nodded at the floor and continued to help Tsuna and others sweep the floor since Habari had to go to a meeting and told Agnella to stay with the herbivores. "Ah, Walker-san, you don't have to share our punishment," Tsuna blurts out once he realized that she was helping them. "I don't mind," Agnella replies, concentrating on the floor and trying to push memories back in the recesses of her mind. After a few moments of quiet between everyone, Tsuna began thinking about his day. Thoughts wandered from the scary morning, to the exciting and fun lunch, to the slighting relaxing now. As Tsuna thought he remembered Reborn utter the words, "mission." Within Eep, Tsuna dropped his broom on the floor, gaining the stares of his friends and breaking Agnella from her memories of her past. "What's wrong 10th? Gokudera was the first to say, "Of course. I just remembered. We have to do a mission." I remember hearing about it from Reborn while Agnella was in the nurse's office. Tsuna said frantically in the center of the classroom. No one else seemed to be as worried, if at all, as Tsuna noticed as he received blank stares. Agnella said with a slight incline of her head while cleaning the chalkboard, her back to the boys. "Yeah, we might need to train," Gokudera said nonchalant as he used a dustpan to clean near the door. "Yup." Yamamoto grins as stood up from the ground, next to Agnella. Tsuna suddenly felt like he was the only one remotely worried, embarrassed. Tsuna dropped the subject and started cleaning more again, occasionally spilling some trash, and dropped the dustpan due to hand cramp and even managed to knock over an entire trash can. "I'm sorry, clumsy." Clumsy, Tsuna pleaded as he noticed he wasn't helping much at all. "And you wonder why you're called no good, Tsuna?" A mature feminine voice called out from the door. "Foe." Pairs of eyes traced back to Kyoko and Kyoko's cynical best friend, Hana. "Kyoko-chan," Tsuna sputtered out, with a slight blush at his cheeks. Kyoko only smiled and waved towards the blushing boy. "Stupid woman, the boss is working." "Beat it." Gokudera sneered at Hana. Hana's face broke out into a cold and forced smile. Well, Tsuna's little pet dog seems rather protective today," Hana whispered into a low and dangerous voice. Gokudera could feel his blood pressure rise and a string of curses organized itself in his head, but dared not to use such language in front of his precious boss. "Got something to say?" Hana challenged, before Kyoko stepped in. "Hana-chan, don't tease Gokudera-san." "Yeah, I guess you're right," Hana said reluctantly to her best friend. Kyoko only SMI led a smile that made Tsuna's stomach do flip-flops. "Okay, you might not be able to tell by the way I force myself to write, but Kyoko annoys me to no end. I hate writing about her." Every nice thing I say about her is one big, fat lie. Hey, what's the new girl doing here? Hannah asked, looking towards Agnella. Oh, just helping out, Agnella says. Oh, should we help? Kyoko asked kindly. Should we not? Hannah says while giving Gokudera a noticeable glare. The glare was returned equally. Suddenly, a loud outlandish voice sang out obnoxiously, nearing the door with every note. Who are you? I'm Lambo. Who am I? You're Lambo. Singed and afro-headed, little boy in a cow costume who's very adorable, like seriously. Tsuna and everyone else turned their head to the big eyes 5-year-old outside the door frame. Agnella looked at the afro, and the cow suit with a sense of familiarity picking at her. I know this kid, Agnella thought quietly while thinking of where she could have met such a person. A child. My arms. The hives. Hannah shouted as little red dots started to creep up her arm. I got to get out of here, she yelled while running out the door, not without successfully kicking Lambo into the wall. Kyoko ran after, concerned for her friend. She ran out of the room and left the group, giving Lambo a symphonic look. The 5-year-old was crushed into the wall, upside down. Tch, stupid cow, Gokudera said in disgust. Poor Lambo. Tsuna synthesized with Lambo. After all, he was in the same position more than once. Ah, it's the cow kid. Yamamoto laughed in obliviousness. Agnella's face remained thoughtful as she stared at the cow. Where did I see him? Lambo the Great has come to visit you. Be grateful, Lambo says in a weakly as he began to slide down the wall before landing on his head. Agnella's eyes widened with realization. The ridiculously sized ego, the getting in the way persona, the loud voice, the cow costume and hair. Agnella remembers all that very well just before that freaky accident. You're that kid who walked right over the Gandor brothers' poker game that one night. Agnella concluded out loud with a dramatic, stark finger pointed towards the odd boy. Lambo only blinked at the strange girl's rather random outburst. Well, yeah, Lambo is known everywhere, because Lambo is amazing. Lambo said, although not really remembering Agnella or the Gandor bar at all. You know the kid, Agnella? Yamamoto asked, turning towards Agnella who was starting to remember the night. The Gandors were playing poker and some strange kid walked into the bar and started to make a ruckus. Agnella even remembers the shady expression Mr. Chick wore when he offered the boy a haircut, when he knocked over Mr. Chick's scissors stand. Non-Bacano fans, Mr. Chick is working for the mafia family, the Gandors, in America. When people aren't talking, Mr. Chick gets his scissors out and sees what he can find out. Yeah, with scissors, in people's hair, skin, fingers. After that, the kid returned with a big bazooka that fell on Agnella. Then Agnella found herself on a train with terrible and strange things happening. For some odd reason, Isaac and Iya were there and acted as if they meet Agnella for the first time. Same thing for him. To this day, Agnella isn't sure the horrible things she saw was a dream, hallucination, or real life. Yeah, he was making a commotion at the Gandor's bar just a year ago, Agnella said quietly. She briefly wondered how the boy got away. From what Agnella could remember, he was chased into an alleyway, pink SMO. And then some handsome young man was there, looking very confused. Keith's men gave up and walked back into the hideout per bar, and Agnella doesn't recall ever hearing further news about the weird boy, even after the incident. Tch, he even annoys the Gandor family in New York. Typical, for a stupid cow, Gokudera said coldly giving Lambo a half-hearted gaze. New York, Yamamoto questioned. Yay, the American-Italian mafia, Gokudera answered easily. Wow, Americans play the mafia game too. Yamamoto laughed. Gokudera's cigarette snapped in two in his jaw. It's not a game, baseball idiot. He seethed. Tsuna couldn't help but hold out his hands, sheepishly into a stop gesture. Gokudera-san. Yamamoto stop. Gokudera stopped dead in his tracks, just as he was going to punch Yamamoto. Anything for you, 10th. Gokudera beams brightly. Tsuna would have worn he saw dog ears on his head. Gwahahaha. Octopus head does whatever no good Tsuna tells him to. PFF'd. You really are stupid, octopus head. Lambo ranted while holding his head up high, and nostrils flared. making him look like a brat. Oh, he dissed the 10th. Gokudera's aura suddenly turned a deadly dark color as he hipped out flaming sticks of dynamite in his hands, the tips towards the cow child. Tsuna froze in fright at Gokudera's facial expression. Gokudera backed Lambo into the hallway. Tsuna stood at the edge of the door frame, peeking out to see what would happen. Yamamoto and Agnella stood out in the hallway just behind Gokudera. Lambo paled and backed away. Against the wall chuckled weakly. Why yeah, you're so pathetic. Octopus H head. The cow child started to back away, out into the hallway and started to head towards the entrance with a terrified expression mixing with his childish face. Lambo gave a shrill shriek of terror when Gokudera started to run after running Lambo. Yup, causing a commotion. That's the cow child I remember, Agnella states all too calmly as she began to see. Auntie knew to sweep the last of the dirt out of the classroom door. Ha ha. Yup, Yamamoto agreed, and walked past Tsuna and helped Agnella. Tsuna couldn't help but to feel that he was the only one troubled about Lambo's safety. Chapter 3. Fanfiction. Yay. It's fanfiction that's long and kind of retarded in a way. Yay. Chapter 3, in which the unexpected is bound to happen. 15 minutes later, a happy Gokudera returned to the classroom that 2 boys and a girl waited so patiently for him. Tsuna panicked slightly as he asked, where's Lambo? Don't worry 10th. He's went really high in the sky this time. My aim is really improving. Gokudera replied with a cheeky smile. Tsuna felt bad for the poor Lambo. Tsuna let a sigh and let his shoulder slump. Don't worry Tsuna, I'm sure that. Agnella didn't get to finish when an enthusiastic couple ran through the halls of Nami Middle, straight towards the kid prodigy architect. Agnella. 2 different, but synced voices yelled loudly at the same time. Agnella flinched at the sound of her name being shouted like that and whipped her head around to the sound of the all too familiar voices. The group looked towards at the interference, only to find 2 adults, Americans, tourists by the look of them. The 2 stopped abruptly, just short of a foot from where Agnella stood. They wore matching purple traditional Japanese kimonos and were posing, mimicking each other as they pointed dramatically towards the surprised Agnella. Isaac, Miria, Agnella stuttered, bewildered at her friend's sudden appearance. We have come to save you from Godzilla, the smiling brunette man announced in a louder than necessary volume in a near-fluent Japanese tongue. We're going to save you, the smiling blonde woman mimicked, also in fluent Japanese. Godzilla? Tsuna asked with complete and utter confusion, practically punching him in the face. Yamamoto seemed to be enjoying himself, while Gokudera shared his tense expression. I thought you 2 were going to come on Sunday, Agnella inquired, being a little confused on the whole Godzilla thing, but smiled at seeing her friends anyway. There was a change in plans. Miria cheered. A twist of fate. My good friend. Isaac misinterpreted the situation. I see. Agnella complied weakly, still not understanding the dynamic duo. Isaac and Miria, as if on cue, pulled on Agnella's hands. Her left hand in Miria's, her right in Isaac's, and both of them were on their knee, looking up at Agnella with adoring eyes. Good, brave sister, you came to Japan to fight off the menacing Godzilla, all alone. The 2 chanted together, admiration sparkling visibly in their kind eyes. What? Agnella said nervously. They won't get Godzilla to appear somehow, right? Well, we won't let you do it alone. Miria exclaimed with tears of admiration for Agnella, flowing comically down her smiling faces, ditto for Isaac. We decided to help you take down such a ferocious beast, Isaac declared, letting one hand go of Agnella's to wipe away the overdramatic tears, hysterically. And whatever you do, don't say, I can do it myself, because we're here to help you, as friends. And we're friends, like family. Miria went on. Right. The duo finished their skit-like pep talk together, with tears now flowing freely from their animated faces. Godzilla is already dead, Agnella compromised. Remembering seeing the movie and not sure how to tell the duo without upsetting them, or making them think that she was in any more trouble than they already did. Isaac and Miria's eyes widened, and they both abruptly jumped up on their feet, hoisting Agnella in the air with them. Amazing, Miria commented with a hand on her shocked and in awe face. Isaac looked proud at Agnella and gloated. You apparently didn't need us to help you. You beat that beast on your own. And we were worried. Isaac finishes with a small smile, hidden slightly by turning his head away from his little sister. You're like a hero, Miria proclaims with a clap of her hands, letting go of Annula's for a second. A heroine, Miria my dear, Isaac corrects with a bold finger in the air, staring at his love's eyes. Wow Isaac, you're so smart, Miria giggled, falling into Isaac's arms making the little stunt look well practiced, as Annula fell on her feet. Annula, not really understand where all of this nonsense came from, but found it charming enough coming from her over-enthusiastic, dim-witted, dear, and caring friends. Annula didn't even question that he friends were speaking Japanese the entire time. She only went with the pleasant surprise. Annula laughed lightly at Isaac and Miria, their quirky ways that Annula loves so much. Isaac and Miria were admittedly confused by Annula's sudden laughter. They were congratulating her on her heroic deed defeating a treacherous monster by herself. What's so funny about that? Even though the two knew their quirky friend wasn't making fun of them or anything. She was being her own quirky self. Isaac and Miria cared deeply for their little sister, and they felt like that was all that mattered in family. With Miria's arm draped over Isaac's shoulder, and Isaac's arm draped over Miria's, they laughed along with their sister that they loved so much. Tsuna, Gokudera and Yamamoto could see the trust in years between the strange duo. Isaac and Miria and their new comrade, Annula. Something about Isaac and Miria tugged something at their hearts, something about them made the day brighter. Their non-existent grip on reality and facts made them unique, interesting and possibly the most honest people they ever meet. Geez, you two can hustle, calm, teasing and cool, a voice said in English. The manly voice held a wrong New York accent that made his voice almost dangerous. Everyone turned to look at the charming young man, in his early 20s, who wore a simple black trench coat and had dark red hair, like blood. His lips curved into a rather smug look on his face, or were that just his face? Tsuna, Yamamoto and Gokudera looked to this man with blank stares, not understanding what he's saying. It didn't seem like the stranger spoke a lick of Japanese. Isaac and Miria only smiled brightly at the man and danced on over to the boys to talk to them, while Tsuna and his friends stared for a moment at the man, wondering who he is before turning their attention back to the dynamic duo. Annula's eyes widened and her mouth clamped shut at the sight of the man. Unfortunately for her, she knew exactly who this person was, Veno. The red-headed man made his way, smoothly, towards a shrinking Annula. She stood still, eyes wide and alert, a deer caught in headlights. The man advanced towards the girl's frozen body, until they were close enough to reach for a hug. He smiles a confident smile towards Annula, her mind goes blank. A masculine hand started to slowly reach down to pet Annula's cheek in an honestly affectionate way. Like a father comforting his daughter, but to Annula, this is anything from comforting. Annula only stared at the offending gesture with cold fear in her eyes, the same kind of fear that made her palms break into cold sweat, her pulse to heighten to a rupturing rate and for adrenaline to pump icy terror through her veins. This fear made everything look more like slow, terrifying surrealism in an agonizingly dawdling speed. Annula watched in a world, far too slow, as the murderous hand neared her face and neck, ready to end her life. Annula, at the last minute lost her eyes shut and in sudden darkness, awaited pain and the sound of her own scream. Soon, or not soon enough, the hand reached to pet Annula's face and Annula stood still despite everything inside of her from her instincts to memory screamed at her to get away from this man. The touch was meant to be, and was in fact was a casual, friendly and harmless but Annula couldn't help but to remember who this man was. Veno. The man retracted his hand after the friendly gesture and he put his murdering hand back into a flat black pocket attached to his trench coat. He smiles at her, in his voice too, good to see ya. Yeah, good to see you too, she chokes on her reply, her knees threatening to buckle under the weight of fear that sat dead still in her stomach. Tsuna noticed the terrified, no petrified look on Annula's face. She was afraid of this man, deeply. He couldn't understand what they were saying, but he could tell that there was something wrong. He couldn't see why though. He man she was talking to seemed like a typical American man. He was smiling kindly, and talking calmly with Annula. Maybe her fear is just Tsuna's imagination. So you never told me why you were in here in Japan, Agnella, the man began. And I don't recognize these faces. He says, smiling ever so casually, and making a lazy gesture to Tsuna, Yamamoto and Gokudera. Agnella only nodded blankly and swallowed dryness. It's confidential. And these are some friends I made in class. It took a moment for her to find her voice, but Agnella spoke in the calmest tone she could, the English language oming to her like a jumbled mess that she has to decode. The man nodded and smiled, while putting his arm around Agnella's shoulder. I guess you're real popular then. I guess so. You're real charming. Shane likes that you can speak French. I can't even say a proper sentence in that mumbo-jumbo, the man says lightly, in a joking tone. Truth be told, this man really is a charming, kind and trustworthy. It's just that he's more than just that man. He is also a monster. Agnella laughs uneasily. Veno never bothered to question it, if he noticed Agnella's uneasiness around him. You should teach me French. Maybe Shane won't feel so homesick. Veno requests with a gleam of love in his eye for his wife. Agnella's fear made it so she could only hear the beating of her frantic heart and didn't catch a thing Veno said. Her mouth twitched against her, and she settled for nodding in silence again. Oh thanks kiddo, I didn't want to learn by some snobby prick, Veno laughs. Wait, what? Teach him what? What did I agree to? Agnella panics, then wondered how she even meet a person like him in the first place. Agnella remembered the day when she met Veno. He was the nice young man she sees right now. The second time, she saw him covered in three people's blood, smiling broadly as he dug his fingernails into a man's forehead and peeled down the skin to his collarbone. The sounds, the unnatural sound of flesh ripping like that, the screams that the faceless stranger made, Agnella never knew how loud a human being could scream until that day. I was supposed to come on Sunday, but C and Miria told me that you were in danger. I wasn't sure what to think about a monster, but I came today just in case. Veno changes the subject, placing a gloved hand on his hip as he turned from Agnella to Isaac and Miria, who were talking animatedly to Tsuna, Yamamoto and Gokudera. Agnella looked towards Isaac and Miria and felt herself smile at her new friends' confused faces, remembering being very confused the first time she met Isaac and Miria. Yeah, those two are a bit eccentric. Veno was silent before nodding his in agreement. I thought half what they said didn't make sense, he grinned. Well, I should go back to New York. Shane is waiting and I didn't give her a great explanation for leaving to Japan at the last minute. Agnella blinked in surprise, finally noticing Veno's sudden loving nature. She had heard that he was married, but she only thought it was a rumor, like him changing his name to Felix or some other crazy thing Veno has done, which Agnella suspects must be true too. Then Agnella's thought wandered back to Veno's wife and the love he held for her in his brown eyes. He must really love her, Agnella thought. Then suddenly, he seemed so much less threatening. Times like these, seeing Veno talk about his wife so lovingly, being open, seeming so human, it made him seem like an average, middle-class working man. In fact, the monster inside him seemed non-existent. It was like the best of him was showing, and it somehow gave Agnella strength. If Veno can live a normal life, so can I, Agnella tells herself. She straightens her back and holds her head up higher. And her eyes smooth chocolate again. I guess I'll see you, Felix. Agnella says to a man that just a few moments ago would have been more than happy to run away from. But in just a moment, he proved Agnella he was in fact a human being, and his fear seemed to slip away, placed with hope for a new and better life. He smiles an honest smile. Veno returns a smile. Yeah, you too, I'll leave today. Besides, I have a target. I need to get prepared and find a good spot to hide the body at home. Agnella shrank back. Okay, maybe not. Not only did Agnella's fear of Veno stay the same, now it seems like Agnella will have to do a favor for him as well. Soon enough, Veno left home to finish his work, and Isaac and Miria left to see more of Japan. Agnella was sad, but seeing her old friends, and even Veno, really made her feel better. The harshness of life and reality seemed to slip right past Isaac and Miria, for Veno too, in his own way, and vice versa. Gokudera seemed annoyed by their visit, but seems fascinated too. Yamamoto seemed to enjoy it, talking to Isaac and Miria about baseball and waving to Veno. Tsuna was very timid and shy, only squeaking a hello at Veno. But with Isaac and Miria's warm, quirky behavior, Tsuna had no choice but to warm up to them in return. They had this weird nickname for him too, Jacuzzi, lol, Bacano. And they kept asking Tsuna about a person named Nice lol, Bacano. Tsuna didn't really understand, but he accepted the nickname anyway. Agnella wondered how a hot tub was anything like Tsuna, but knowing Isaac and Miria, there's no point in asking the eccentric duo. Ma, your friends are great, Yamamoto says cheerfully. They were weird and loud, Gokudera said, trying to sound annoyed while holding back a smile. Tsuna felt inspired. He has never met anyone with so much optimism and charisma as those two. Agnella with her easygoing attitude sort of reflected that, and in a way carried their spirit. Tsuna concluded that they've known each other for a long time to start acting like each other. This too inspired Tsuna, lifting his spirits high and fleeting. Ah, it's at least 5 now, Yamamoto calmly states as he stares off into a low light. But colorful sunset as its lights soak into the hallway, coloring and beautifying it. Even this reminded Tsuna of Isaac and Miria. I'll go meet up with Habari in his office. I'll see you later, 10th and friends, Agnella says placidly as she turns on her heel and starts walking slowly down a hallway. Tsuna felt a sense of panic tug at his heart. Are you sure you'll be okay with Habari, Walker-san? Agnella turned to face the group with wide blinking eyes, still oblivious to Habari's violent persona. Agnella only smiled, somewhat understanding what Tsuna said, and replied, everything will be okay. Tsuna. With that, Agnella left the group. Agnella was feeling optimistic and happy after her meeting with her friends. Even after seeing Veno, Agnella couldn't help but to smile. Agnella was also excited to see Habari again, his own charisma unique enough to appeal to Agnella. With a bounce in her step, Agnella came to Habari's office and knocked on the door. Habari opened the door and he let his faded steel eyes land on the beaming girl. Habari found this odd, but shrugged it off as he led the way off into Namimori in silence. About halfway back to his house, Habari couldn't help but to notice the extra bounce in her step, the energy radiating off of the girl. What happened to you? Habari asked, and even in a warm sunset, his words sounded cool like water, or should I say a cloud. And sharp as a knife. Agnella didn't seem to notice. I met up with some of my old friends, they're really great, Agnella answered with a hum to her usual musical voice. Herbivore, Habari commented. Agnella just laughed lightly at the quirky nickname. Habari thought about threatening to bite her to death, but she looked so happy, almost glowing. Habari settled with a simple, HN. Agnella then sighed contentedly, and turned her head away from the city and Habari and towards the vague yet glowing sunset as she kept her pace to Habari's. I know I won't live forever, and I don't want to. I still have to find him, wherever he is, so I can apologize for the terrible things I did. I may even get killed before I find him. Death is definitely in my future, my own or my father's. Death, will Isaac and Miria. And maybe even Veno remember me if I do die? Agnella wondered. As memories and fragments of the dark parts of the past came back to Agnella, the more the beautifully warm and gently vibrant sunset seemed to contrast to Agnella's face. Eyes growing melancholy, Agnella's conscious mind ventured closer and closer to places she wants to forget, to actions she wishes to take back. To the one person she loved that stood by her so many years ago, gone. Habari noticed the sudden sad distant look Agnella carried, then remembered the oddly placed smile Agnella gave Ibari earlier that day and how it calmed him down. Habari, not liking to be in debt, decided to repay an odd gesture back. He raised his arm and clenched his fist as if he were going to punch her, then let the fist land nonchalant and gently on Agnella's head. Agnella blinked in surprise at the unusual gesture, but accepted it full-heartedly. In the corner of Habari's skilled eye, he caught Agnella's smile as warmly as the sunset. The crookedness of her lopsided grin matched the arching colors of the fading sun, directed right at him. He saw perfect contention, harmony in her, something not usual in an herbivore. In one action, Habari seemed to balance Agnella's heart. Somewhere, deep inside of Habari, he felt happy by her happiness, and he felt a want to be the cause of Agnella's smile. To make her beam like she is right now. He's never had this. warming sensation in his body once in his entire lifetime, and it was confusing but pleasant enough for Habari to not bite away. Instead, Habari chose to let it stay. Sawada residence. I can't believe we're making Agnella stay with such a scary guy. Tsuna shuddered as he stared down at his glass of water in guilt. Everyone else, freeloading at his house at the moment, ate dinner in silence, casually. She's fine. If you want to go check up on her, go to Habari's house and go check yourself. No good, Tsuna, Reborn suggested coolly. With a slight intake of mischievousness in his tone. Tsuna instantly paled. No, that's all right. Nana just smiled at her son's shyness that she thought was so cute. Don't worry about anything, 10th. If you need something done, leave it to me, Gokudera offered passionately, his whole face beaming with determination for his boss. Tsuna made an, I can't believe that this guy is almost just like a lost puppy mafioso, face. Then the eager to please puppy face was completely demolished as Lambo jumped in front of Gokudera. Ha, ha, ha. Stupid Dara. Fireworks can't protect anyone. Stu-upid. Gokudera promptly swiped the child away with his fist and a facial expression close to a scowl and pent-up fury. Again, Lambo's face was again stuck in the wall with muffled screams for help. Tsuna felt really bad for him. But right-hand man or not, Tsuna does not want to be stuck in between Gokudera's furry and the cow child. Normally, Yamamoto would have commented something like, haha, this mafia game sure is fun. Or, ma, Gokudera-kun, don't be mean to kids, if he wasn't having dinner at his own place. He's the only non-freeloader, Tsuna thought, twitching in annoyance. NCE, when was it okay for multiple people to stay at one place and not pay a dime for it? Wasn't his mother concerned at all? Yeah, besides you need to get ready for your next mission. Reborn casually threw into the dinner conversation. I knew you were up to something, Reborn. Tsuna shouted with slight tears brimming at his eyes. He can't believe that there's yet another Vongola mission for him. What's Reborn giving him? What? A 9-minute rebound break. You have to pack your bags by August 20th, Reborn added, taking some food into his mouth. Gokudera straightened up at the news. Tsuna's jaw almost dropped on the dinner table. Oh, is Tsuna going to study abroad? Nana queried, with a small smile forming at her lips. How exciting, and what a once-in-a-lifetime learning opportunity this is for Su-kun. Nana thought proudly. Yup, we're all going to England, including Gokudera, and the rest of his friends and some others. Reborn answered, putting his fork down. Tsuna couldn't help but to notice how Reborn completely ignored the existence of Lambo while naming the Guardians. Surely you can notice when a cow child is stuck in a wall, right? First Japan, then England. When will I see you again? Bianchi asked with a stare of suspicion, directed solely at Tsuna. Tsuna's face dropped as he turned his head from the scary aura Bianchi was producing. Reborn, we don't need to go to England, right? Bianchi's stare only got deadlier. Gokudera's face scrunched with irritation. Hey sis, lay off the 10th or all. Gokudera, Bianchi-based trauma and all, who was aced away from his sister the entire dinner so far, and finally faced her, fell like a sack of potatoes, with indigestion. Tsuna panicked like usual. Reborn ignored the unconscious Gokudera's face, GHT next to his plate and even managed to sound out Tsuna's shrieks of panic. Tsuna, take this list and invite all the people listed there for this mission. It's important to begin to start giving well-organized and compelling orders to be a great mafia boss. Reborn demanded. Tsuna could only nod and pocket the list, then groan inside. His guardians aren't exactly normal by anyone's standards. Ryohei, Chrome, Habari, Gokudera, Lambo, even Yamamoto, were oddballs. Wait, this mission is in England, Tsuna thought. We don't even speak English. Reborn will probably make me learn some at he last minute of with my dying will or something, Tsuna guessed in dread. What a mission. The rest of the dinner went on quietly with no disruptions, until Gokudera finally woke up, kicking and screaming of course. Lambo also sprang into action at the same time. After a few minutes of yelling and commotion, dinner continued on again, peacefully. Reborn threatened Tsuna with a real bullet to finish his homework. Tsuna finished his homework in a brand new time record, 1 hour and 22 minutes. Reborn felt a bit of pride sting at him. Fuda put that into his ranking book. While final oars and the tucking in of Lambo and Ipin were completed, there was finally silence in the Sawada household at night. During the unusual silence, Tsuna took out the list Reborn gave him from his paja. Ma pants pockets, hands shaking in apprehension. With a sharp intake of breath, Tsuna opened the Reborn made, basically means evil, bad, cursed paper open with a barely audible snap. With strained eyes, Tsuna hesitantly read the list. Gokudera Yamamoto Cow Idiot Ryohei Chrome Dino Annula. Tsuna sighed in relief, not seeing the terrifying Cloud Guardian's name at the end on the list. Maybe Reborn finally became fair with me. Tsuna smiled. Tsuna pawed over the thought over again, and felt suspicion and doubts build up inside of him. Tsuna scans over the paper again, and notices a small, mocking arrow in the corner right-hand bottom corner of the small paper. "Oh God no," Tsuna said aloud in a whisper. With shaking and sweating hands, Tsuna flips over the paper only to close his eyes. Not brave enough to face what could or could not be the truth. With another sharp intake of breath, Tsuna opens his eyes at one and brings the paper up to his face. To Tsuna's horror, there was not only Habari's name but a little note, and Habari no good Tsuna, if you fail to bring your Cloud Guardian along for the mission, by the 20th of August, I will ask for special permission Oh, kick your ass from the 9th and trust me I will get that permission. Don't disappoint me Reborn. PS, if Habari beats you up, you're going to have to do something with your bruises. You're going to have to look presentable for this mission. Tsuna felt his heart drop. Wasn't Reborn already being hard on him now? Tsuna could only imagine the horrible pain Reborn has up his sleeve. And why does Tsuna have to be presentable for a mission? The disgruntled boy did not find his answer in the letter. Tsuna groaned loudly while rubbing madly at his confused head. Why? Tsuna chanted while tossing and turning in his bed. And tomorrow's Sunday too, Tsuna whined. And just for that, I'll gladly take your precious Sunday away. From Reborn's canopy, a bright green and black 100-pound mallet street retched across Tsuna's room to hit him square in the chest and stomach. Tsuna made oof in pain as he held and nursed his stomach that will surely be sore in the morning. Shut up and go to bed, you wimp, Reborn said irritably, while holding out Leon on his finger threateningly. Tsuna made an eek, but silenced himself into forced sleep. It's easy to say that Tsuna fell asleep in fear of the baby hitman that will surely make him work hard for the rest of Tsuna's shortening by the day lifespan. Tsuna could only imagine the kind of hell Annula must be experiencing. Annula found that Habari's house was traditional, Japanese style and quite spacious. It seemed to even have central air and many other expensive things that pleasantly surprised the dark-haired girl. Habari and Annula only made it back when Habari's patrol ended and the rest of the discipline committee took the night shift. Annula wasn't sure what to think of the discipline committee at first, but found it comforting enough. She's never been to a town where it had its own special forces to keep citizens safe. Dense to most kinds of danger. Hell yeah, here, Habari said calmly as he led Annula to an empty room in the luxurious house. Annula slid open the rice paper door and walked into the room to find that it had one of those futon mats she's read about and not much more decorated the room. Habari-san, Annula spoke tentatively. Where are the blankets? Annula said, trying not to sound rude. She did feel bad for dropping in on Habari at the last minute, and she'd only feel worse if she made herself a nuisance. Habari stepped to the side and opened a breakfront just to the right of Annula's room's door to reveal some dark blankets. Ah, Annula voiced and took a blanket. Thank you Habari, Annula said, although slipping accidentally into English. Habari blinked in confusion he didn't show, but could tell Annula was thanking him somehow, maybe by the way she smiled up at him, or the way her eyes were slightly grateful. Yet excited only a touch to her smooth chocolate eyes. Habari blinked again. Did he really just analyze her face? Annula in the midst of the awkward silence that she began to realize she spoke in English. Gosh, I know too many languages. I'll combine them all and make a brand new and useless language before I finish learning Japanese. Annula nearly kicked herself. Agnella opened her mouth to apologize and repeat her thank you in Japanese, but Habari beat her to it. "You're welcome," he answered non-sarcastically in Japanese, as he stepped gracefully past Agnella and walked down a hallway. Agnella's eyes went wide as she let them follow the Cloud Guardian. Did I speak Japanese or English? Agnella wondered. Before he was out of sight, Habari tapped twice on a door to his right with his knuckles. "You are free to use this bathroom, herbivore," he says in Japanese with no particular emotion in his voice, though his usual deepness and mystery were all very present. With that he slipped out of Agnella's sight. Agnella could only nod absently, knowing that Habari wasn't there anyway. How'd he know what I said? I know he doesn't speak English by the way he looked at me. But he end up knowing. Agnella quarreled with herself. Agnella looked back to where she last saw Habari, trying to remember exactly what his face looked like when he guessed what Agnella said. Was he really just guessing? Maybe. He's more of a feeling sort of guy, Agnella thought. Habari understands body language better than talking, like Keith Gandor. Keith Dosen. He speak for years but always gets his point across because he does things through action. Besides, Kate's always there to sort of narrate for him. Maybe I can guess what Habari's thinking, Agnella thought with a small, lopsided smile. He speaks more than Keith, so it will only be easier. As Agnella made her decision, she did not know that even if Habari talks more, he's just as confusing and perplexed as Keith. Neither did she seem to remember that Keith and Kate played the same game, and shortly got married and have been together since. Agnella ended up concentrating more on figuring out Habari than anything else as she unpacks. Gets in her pajamas, brushed her teeth and slips in her futon mat and her dark blankets that had a dark, woodsy and clean sort of smell that soothed Agnella into a silent slumber. Sawada residence. Tsuna woke up to a nice, refreshing kick in the face by Reborn, and promptly fell out of bed. Reborn, Tsuna started to whine. It's Sunday, and it's 5 in the morning. Can't we invite the Guardians for the mission later? Tsuna said with an annoyed look on his face. We might as well start today, you lazy wimp. Besides, convincing Habari to come will take longer than anyone else. And I'm sure you want to make sure he says yes. Reborn said with an evil and violent glint in his soulless ebony eyes. Tsuna backed away in fear of the hitman. So eat up your breakfast. We need to find all of the Guardians today. Why today? Because Mafia bosses don't procrastinate. Reborn and Tsuna quarreled, and Reborn ended up winning of course. They soon began to start their day. Tsuna ate breakfast, the majority of it being eaten up by Lambo and Reborn. Why do you eat so much, Lambo? Tsuna questioned the bottomless pit cow child. Lambo only laughed narcissistically and said, because great people need a lot of food. Tsuna resisted the urge to roll his eyes, but then remembered the mission. Lambo, will you please come with me for the Ninth's next mission? Tsuna asked politely with no threats, unlike his tutor, a practical way to ask for help, right? Ha, 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 so you need the great Lambo's help now, no good Tsuna. Lambo ranted. Na really still can't believe that Lambo is an actual guardian. How did he not die again? The Ninth's mission is probably stupid anyway. The great Lambo is too mighty for any Vongola. Lambo was cut off by Reborn's foot on his mouth and most of his left side of his face. Lambo fell against yet another wall and slid down slowly while moaning in pain. Stupid, meanie Reborn, in a feeble voice as he lay flat on the kitchen floor. What kind of idiot bad talks anything of Reborn's? Tsuna asked quietly in disbelief as he stared at the cow child. You cheated Reborn. You're only mad because you Vey to go to that stupid mission no good Tsuna was talking about. Lambo stomped his tiny childish feet into the ground, simulating an almost dance-looking movement. Reborn ignored Lambo. Tsuna, you got your list with you, right? I don't want to have to write another. Reborn stated, while turned to Tsuna. Tsuna could only sweat drop as Lambo gets angrier and more stomp why every second Reborn ignored him. Stupid Reborn. Lambo will steal your stupid mission and do it way better than you. Stupid, stupid. Lambo chanted angrily, waving a tiny fist in the air, unnoticed by Reborn. Completely taken by childish anger, Lambo pulls out a pink grenade and tosses to Reborn, much to Tsuna's alarm, and tosses it right to Reborn's head. Reborn slaps the grenade away out an open window, while taking Lambo with it. A blinding and face-flinching explosion goes off, shaking the entire house, which the residents, except for Tsuna, who seemed to be unalarmed. Tsuna knows his day is only just begun. Tsuna excu, said himself from the table and reluctantly walks outside to start the mission. With a near-empty stomach and Reborn right behind him, Tsuna sets out to find rest of his guardians and other support, one person at a time. Knowing Habari is last on the list, Agnella awoke early, being it was basically part of her nature by now, darn military. She stretched and yawned in her white tank top and Skyen cloud print pajama pants, lol, that she wore to bed. For a moment, panic and confusion crossed Agnella's face as she jumped to her feet and glanced around the unfamiliar room, before remembering why she was in this house, the mission. And Habari. General Itsov makes us do too many drills, Agnella thought with dislike and smoothed her hair with her hand absently, thinking. For Agnella, this was on of the few times she's ever been away from anything military related, and she wondered vaguely what to do. Agnella yawned again and wandered out of her room in search of the kitchen. Agnella decided to start with breakfast. That's what people on TV do, right? Agnella thought about it for a little, and decided to make Habari breakfast too. Agnella found herself smiling, wondering if Habari will smile too when he wakes up to find breakfast ready. Tsuna groaned as he dragged his feet, alone in a random street. Reborn left Tsuna just a second ago, so he could do it by himself. Tsuna never realized how impossible this seemingly easy this mission was. Tsuna knew where Yamamoto and Ryohei lived, but the others. Sure, Tsuna's right-hand man was with him constantly, save for today, but Tsuna had no idea where Gokudera lived. Tsuna wasn't even sure if Chrome was real or illusion, let alone have any idea where she could possibly live. Dino lived in Italy and Tsuna didn't have his number. Reborn seemed to know how to contact him though, but Reborn left. And then there's Agnella and Habari. At Habari's house, possibly with other discipline committee members guarding it. With Habari trying to find his house in the first place is as good as signing off a death wish. I'm going to die. Reborn's going to bring me back to life, then kick me back in my grave. Tsuna thought with dread. Tease. Una was silent and emo for a few minutes, but grew bored of doing nothing. Mustering up courage, Tsuna makes a little map in his head. Might as well head to Ryohei and Kyoko's house, they're the closest. Tsuna thought as he headed down a familiar block. Tsuna suddenly realized he was going to Kyoko's house, and blushed. Will she think I'm a weirdo for being up so early, and at her house? Oh, what if she thinks I'm a weekend stalker? Tsuna thought with dismay. With legs powered by the memory of a certain baby hitman's threat, Tsuna walks up to Ryohei's and Kyoko's house. Tsuna hears yelling and movement coming from inside of the house, with not much surprise. Not even the fact that it was 5:15 in the morning surprised the boy that lived through enough excitement to last him a lifetime. Before Tsuna's finger could reach their doorbell, Ryohei stood at the door frame with the usual, extremely determined and passionate face and stance and holding the door wide open. His more passive sister Kyoko right behind him, who giving Tsuna a calm smile. Tsuna, flushed, waved a small, tentative, hello, to Kyoko. Before Kyoko could even move, her brother was already in Tsuna's face. Sawada, have you come to my house? Join the boxing club. We could use you for our next competition. He all but said, very loudly, basically like a drill sergeant. Tsuna winced at the volume of the boxer's voice. Tsuna briefly wondered if Ryohei got surgery for iron lungs, but decided that was too extreme, even for Ryohei. Hey Sawada, why are you spacing out? Do you want to fight me? Maybe it's just enough extreme-ness. Nay, Oni-kun. Be easy on Tsuna-kun. Kyoko scolded, and Ryohei immediately calmed down for his little sister. Oh sorry Sawada, would you like to join my boxing club? Ohei said in a containing voice that was barely louder than a normal person's voice. He doesn't get it, Tsuna thought with a weak smile showing itself. Might as well break the news to him now, but Kyoko is here, Tsuna thought. Hey, Kyoko-chan, Tsuna said hesitantly. Ryohei raised an eyebrow, and Kyoko's face perked up at her name. Can I talk to Ni-san alone, please? It nearly killed Tsuna to tell Kyoko to go away. But Tsuna swallowed his own feelings. Kyoko's eyes went wide with surprise, but with her mouth pressed in a line. She nodded and headed up the stairs in their house, just in GHT from where Tsuna was standing outside. Ryohei's expression turned serious and calm. "What's up, Sawada?" he asked, leaning on his door frame. "Reborn has a mission for us," Tsuna said, trying to keep this whole list hellishness and all over as soon as possible. Ryohei looked extremely confused. I mean Master Pow Pow," Tsuna said, using Reborn's alter ego. Mater Pow Pow. "What is the extreme mission?" Ryohei shouted into Tsuna's face. Tsuna shrank back and fell on his butt. He winced in pain, but muttered out, "Well, I wanted to get everyone else together before." Tsuna didn't get to finish, for alas. Ryohei grabbed Tsuna by the face like he actually held him by the face, and started to run, Ryohei style down his street. Even from Kyoko's bedroom, you can clearly hear the words, "Sawada. Yamamoto is close by. We will run to the extreme for Master Pow Pow." Kyoko was now not only confused, but worried too. At speeds only a dying bullet will allow, though he accomplishes with sheer extreme passion. Ryohei charged down the streets of Namimori with a poor Tsuna who was being flung around in the wind behind the ever-energetic Ryohei like a flag on a pole. It wasn't long before Yamamoto's dad's sushi shop came into Ryohei's view, and the boxer took it upon himself to chuck Tsuna at the doorway with surprising accuracy. Normally, the thought, how come Ryohei seems to be so good at chucking people around? I mean, that was an accurate throw, would come to mind, but Tsuna was very busy at the moment, screaming in terror as he crashed with little grace, right into the sushi shop. Yamamoto and his dad, who were setting down chairs and preparing and defrosting ingredients, jerked their heads at the sudden commotion. Through dust and little shreds of Tsuna's clothes, Tsuna lay sprawled, nearly unconscious on a random table that was pushed several feet back by the force of Ryohei's throw. "Ah, Tsuna-kun, why are you here so early? We don't even open till 7 o'clock. Yamamoto's dad said with confused gaze fixated at Tsuna's unmoving body when he finally recognized Tsuna's face, that had Ryohei-shaped handprints all over. "Ha ha, that was a great entrance. How did you do that?" Yamamoto asked cheerfully, with a carefree smile. "Why are they acting like this is normal?" Tsuna thought as he lifted himself off of the table into a sitting position, speaking through little hisses and grunts of pain. "This is just not Tsuna's morning. That was extreme, Sawada. You have great form," the boxer exclaimed, running into the sushi shop. "Why?" Tsuna asked, trembling. "His big brother just threw him in a shop." "Yo," Yamamoto greeted Ryohei casually. "Tsuna does have great form when he rushes in and stuff, ha ha. Does anyone truly care of the physical health of Tsuna? Or what?" Tsuna almost plopped back onto the table in distress, until Yamamoto's voice stopped him. "Nay, Tsuna, why are you and Ryohei here? Master Pow Pow has another mission for us, to the extreme." Ryohei explained. "Extremely." Yamamoto's face was blank for a moment, and then broke into a carefree smile. "Ha ha, what?" Tsuna couldn't blame him for the confusion. Reborn has a new mission for us," Tsuna said in a whisper, close to Yamamoto. Yamamoto's face light up and said, "Oh, you mean the kid wants to play another game?" Tsuna's sweat dropped. "Stupid Reborn," a child's voice echoed from a distance. Tsuna turned around to find Lambo, his cow suit and face blackened by the bomb. The 5-year-old self was climbing out of a little Lambo-shaped hole, shaking and sobbing slightly. "Oh, so he landed there," Tsuna muttered under his breath, noticing that his house is at least a quarter of a mile from Yamamoto's house. Lambo," Tsuna called out hesitantly. "What do you say to a person you saw blow up 15 minutes ago?" Once Lambo caught sight of Tsuna, his face light up with determination as he started running towards him as fast as his little legs will take him. "No good, Tsuna," Lambo shouted. Tsuna's face winced at his nickname. Lambo didn't seem to notice, if he cared. "I'll take on your stupid mission, and I will destroy Reborn," Lambo said with his childish pride showing as he started flaring his nostrils and put his hands on his tiny hips. Tsuna began, not knowing what to say to Lambo. "It's the annoying cow kid. Ryohei shouted and pointed at Lambo. Lambo's eyes began to water up and he shouted back, "Shut up, stupid turf top." Yamamoto had to physically hold back the darkening Ryohei from hurting Lambo. Ma, don't be mean to kids." Tsuna wore a twitching smile as he thought, "These are half of my guardians." Yamamoto then blinked as if he just remembered something. "Tsuna, what's this mission about?" Tsuna dropped his head at this and said, "Honestly, I'm not sure. Reborn said to gather up all of the guardians, Dino and Walker-san, so he'll probably tell us when we're all together." Tsuna felt a quick shift of the air. And a large hand on top of his head. Tsuna lifted his head to find Yamamoto smiling down at him. "So, let's find them." "Yeah, let's go see what this mission is about," Ryohei added with enthusiasm. "Yeah," Lambo said, jumping up with a determined look on his face. Tsuna felt himself sigh as he began explaining how he has no way of finding the other people on Reborn's list. The group looked discouraged, but a few words from Yamamoto and their spirits were high again. "We don't have any walkie-talkies or anything, so let's just form a search party of something," Yamamoto said cheekily. Tsuna felt himself beam for having such a reliable friend. And so the cow child, the boxer, the baseball idiot and the future mafia boss went to search for their equally weirdo friends, who were all somewhere in Namimori. Well, most of them, anyway. Chapter 4. Fanfiction. Yay. It's fanfiction that's long and kind of retarded in a way. Yay. Chapter 4, in which fights are partially beneficial for the innocent. Agnella feels a bit proud of herself. Not only did she find the kitchen to Habari's enormous house, but single-handedly, Agnella managed to make a delicious breakfast even though it took a while. While in New York, Agnella was taught by her wife of a mafioso friend, Kate Gandor, to cook some things like spaghetti, pizza, hamburgers, and even whole turkeys. Agnella wasn't sure if Habari was fond of American food at all, but eggs, bacon and toast won't kill anyone, right? Playing at her thoughts and pondering, Agnella found herself eating some of her cooking as she ate a little more bacon just in case Habari is a big eater. As Agnella stirred and flipped the food, she began to remember and think to herself absently. Agnella started to remember the few meals with her father, growing up. Bones sticking out from her and her father's stomach. Starvation is so sadly common for poverty-stricken farmers and their families. Agnella understood well the fear and the pain of slowly dying in such a way. The horrible silhouette of death you imagine, and you get weaker and weaker, and you start to wear down from the inside out. Your spirit too. Such painful experiences, such terrible events made up most of the memories of Agnella Walker. Agnella lowered her gaze as she pulled the ends of her mouth into a tight grimace and turned off the heat from under the pan full of cooked bacon. "It's all over. Me and my father's suffering is over," Agnella reminded herself, even though it was partial lie. Poverty no. Suffering, Agnella still feels like she is. And she can't exactly speak for her father. Wherever he is, dead or alive, near silent footsteps make their way from down the hall, to the kitchen. Agnella turned around with a sullen look, half expecting Jean Raul Itzov from her usual schedule from years working under him. But instead, Agnella witnessed Habari move subtly into the kitchen. Even as aloof as he is, he made Agnella smile. Habari noticed Agnella's earlier grim expression, but dismissed it as tiredness. The Cloud Guardian cast his eyes down to the plate of food set in front of the foot of the table where he normally sits. "What's this?" Habari asked, slightly amused by the surprise. He swore he didn't hear anything while in his room and guessed that the herbivore was being quiet. Habari recalls forgetting to tell Agnella to be quiet or ELSE last night and was glad that she was anyway, not that he'd ever admit it. "Well, it's American food and I think it tastes good," Agnella said casually, with a lopsided smile tugging at the corners of her pink lips. "We'll see about that," Habari said coolly as he sat himself. He noticed that starch and proteins were present in the food the herbivore chose, well for a fighter like Habari. Agnella felt herself smile at Habari's aloof behavior. He was in control of his own world. He was free to do whatever he felt like because he was strong and fearless. Agnella so longed to be like him, to be free and able, something Agnella lacked just about entirely of. Habari took the first bite with no hesitation. The food was warm and tasty, bursting almost with flavor, a stark comparison to rice and veggies in the morning. Agnella watched Habari's subtle facial expressions as he chewed on the food, looking for approval in the stoic face of Habari. "You pass herbivore," Habari stated. Agnella grinned widely. "Oh wow, really? It's great that you like American food. I was thinking of ways to pay you back for letting me stay here, and well, I thought about paying you in money, but that never really pays back for the actual inconvenience." "Right, so I thought I'd help you out in general," Agnella finished, speaking the most that has ever been spoken in one sitting in Habari's home, ever. "Habari on." Lee nodded in agreement and almost smiled in amusement. She read Habari's mind. "Pay through action, not cash. You know, I wouldn't have expected you to like America food that much. I thought I was going to have to learn how to make sushi." Agnella joked as she set her half-finished plate right spot to Habari. Habari held back any amusement as he started shoveling up his food with his chopsticks. Agnella seems almost too nonchalant and hard-working at the same time to Habari. Willing to work hard, and to joke about it too. Weird, Agnella seems almost serene in a sense. It made Habari feel calm too. Habari then remembered that she lives and works for the military all her life and yet can't picture her as a soldier at all. "Herbivore," Habari addressed calmly, while setting his chopsticks. Agnella learned to respond to the weird name, and her head to Habari. She said nothing, only stared. "You do work for the military, don't you?" Habari questioned casually, placing his head into his hands while propping his elbows on his table. Agnella's heart dropped at the mere thought of talking about it, but feigned a practiced smile on her face. "Yeah, they keep me busy." Agnella falsely laughed, staying away from the topic of how she started working there, and her boss. "Did you enroll yourself?" Habari questioned. Something about how she said it put Habari at unease. Habari, even though in pajamas, carries his tonfas with him. He could bite her to death, and get the answer that way, but Habari decided against it. How can she cook while her hands are broken? Even then Habari knows he's not being completely truthful. He bites the thought away and concentrates on the herbivore. "Yeah, I thought it'd be cool to have an early career." Again, Agnella lied. This time she kept the answer away from her parents. If people know of her enslavement to Itzov, then the sadness only become true in the eyes of her friends, which is the last bit of hope for freedom inside of Agnella's heart. She already lost her parents. And herself. She can't lose her friends to the truth of her misery. "I'm such a coward. I lie so I can pretend to be free, and I take missions far away from Itzov 'cause I can't do anything in his presence. I'm nothing but a toy soldier, just like a toy soldier." Agnella thinks to herself, believing it is the truth of her life. Habari narrowed his eyes when he sensed she was lying, not completely. But she was. Not only that, but she was hiding something. "Herbivore, tell me the..." Habari was cut off by a tremendous noise coming from outside. Habari narrowed his eyes dangerously, as he recognized the direction of the sound as his front yard. Someone dared to destroy Habari's property. With a sadistic gleam in his eye in his otherwise emotionless expression. Habari holds his tonfas firmly in his hands while walking so menacingly quiet, like a predator. Agnella flinched at the noise, and watched as a very angry Habari walked off with tonfas. Confused, Agnella follows right behind Habari, wondering who would make such a commotion at this hour. Reborn felt like sighing, but it just isn't his style no matter the situation. The hitman left his appropriately named student. No good Tsuna to gather his own people, but somehow Tsuna made it into an impossible mission, from what he could hear from the wires and various other devices he put in Tsuna's clothes when his stupid, oblivious student wasn't looking. Tsuna seemed like he could only find people that he knew where they lived. His information skills must be flat line, Reborn reasoned. It was quite simple to find Gokudera. Bianchi was talking about making a new dish, and asked for Gokudera's help many times. He said no many times. She finally forced him to go after a few trays of Bianchi cookies. If Tsuna paid attention, he would have heard Bianchi say that she was going to the hot springs with Gokudera to hunt for mushrooms. Reborn found Gokudera waiting at Tsuna's house for his return a few minutes after Tsuna left. When Gokudera successfully escaped Bianchi, finding Chrome was easy for Reborn too. Kokuyo Land is where everyone first meets Chrome. Chrome lives in Kokuyo Land. All are Reborn had to do to get a hold of Dino was use Nana's and Tsuna's house phone contact list and call Dino. He put it in there after he met Tsuna. Sometimes, Reborn feels that Tsuna is just plain stupid. At least he gets to try to kick some sense into him. Better yet, although he promised to hurt Tsuna, why not get his easily angered Cloud Guardian beat him up for being so careless, since Reborn is feeling a bit lazy today. Oh yes, Reborn is a sadist, a good tutor, and sadistic, but Habari is just as much as a sadist, and more violent. So, Reborn let Habari be the last test for Tsuna before they leave for the mission. Reborn smirked at the thought of Tsuna on the ground, black and blue and barely breathing when Tsuna asks him to leave Namimori. That kind of stuff is perfect for YouTube. It'll probably end up being Reborn's job making sure Habari actually doesn't hurt the other Guardians, as well as getting Habari to agree to go. Yes, it will be hell convincing Habari to go, but with Aniel freely volunteering to go on this new and dangerous mission, Habari will have to make sure she's alright, even if it means leaving Namimori for a while. Reborn also took his time making sure Veno doesn't find out about the dangerous mission, convincing him that it's a field trip. Reborn noticed Aniela has that sort of bonding effect on people, even attracting positive attention from the immortal serial killer Veno, aka now Felix Walker. Somehow, Reborn never thought that he'd ever have to hear the name Veno out loud. Many people in the mafia tosses it around in bloody stories and frig. HTFUL and quivering lips as they pass on the tale of the horrible crimson monster as a myth, a legend. But there he was yesterday, ageless, talking to Aniela like they were best of friends, though Aniela showed otherwise. Fear. Cold fear. The hitman heard all of the gory stories and rumors about him, but Aniela was truly afraid of him. This spiked Reborn's interest. Reborn did his own study on Veno, the rail tracer, Felix Walker. Whoever he is, and the bloody trail he leaves behind him. Reborn saw old photographs, very old photographs of messy murder scenes. Blood soaking the mutilated corpses, blood on the walls and ceilings. Blood soaking nearly every inch of the crime scene as faded images. 1930s cops stared in horror at ungodly sin that spread itself like wine spilled over mangled and damaged bodies that were no longer recognizable after Veno was through with them. Just like wine, Reborn thought. No wonder Veno is called Veno. Not only is Veno a terrifying killer, but he is immortal. Reborn thought to himself, he will kill mercilessly for eternity. Even though Veno is close to Aniela, and Aniela seems petrified of him, is it crazy to think that maybe Aniela knows the secret to immortality? Maybe Veno knows himself, and told her. Maybe immortality is guaranteed to her. Aniela's background pulls her awfully close to a covered-up series of incidents with multiple murders and immortal cases that seem to start from midst of the mafia age, the November of 1930. The hitman has hard evidence that Aniela is close to these people who were dated back all the way to the 20s in America and haven't aged a day ever since the year 1930, even though she's only known them for 2 years. Maybe Aniela isn't even aware about their immortality. But there's still a big chance she might. Does Aniela really know about secrets about living forever, to be free from aging and sudden death? Would it be crazy to guess that maybe Aniela is already an immortal? Maybe she somehow became one while those 3 immortals came to visit her. Why else would 3 immortals gather together? Or is it 4, including Aniela? A rarity at its more distressing. Reborn's face held no SM. Ill as he sat on a fence and watched half of Tsuna's guardians minus Habari and Dino talking amongst themselves as they all waited for Tsuna to come back. Reborn had one hell of a time to convince Gokudera to not run off and try to find Tsuna so they could get the last 2 people from the list. Really, Tsuna should hurry up and not keep his people waiting. Reborn decided, with wisdom, that if somehow the secret of immortality leaks from Aniela, Reborn will take note and he will decide what next from that moment on. Satisfied with his decision, Reborn leans back on his hands that gripped the fence post and relaxed, waiting with an evil glint in his eyes for Tsuna to come back and finish gathering all of his guardians and people. Tsuna felt slightly terrified, and very anxious. He didn't find anyone while going on the search party with Yamamoto, Ryohei and Lambo. Sure, they're not the brightest people ever, but Tsuna thought they'd at least find Gokudera. Shouldn't his self-proclaimed Aimed right-hand man be searching for Tsuna too. If that wasn't weird enough, Tsuna hasn't seen Reborn since this morning. That is something kind of scary. Especially as Reborn is intent on keeping his promise to Tsuna. Ma, I wonder where they are, Yamamoto said, ever cheerfully. Tsuna's head dripped down. He'd like to know too. No good Tsuna, I'm tired. Lambo complained openly. Rohei gave Lambo an exaggerated annoyed look before shouting out, this is extremely boring. Sawada, where is Master Pow Pow? He can find everyone. Tsuna secretly agreed with the boxer, where the hell is Reborn? The group has been walking in an expensive and wealthy part of town, knowing that Reborn shows up in unexpected places. In the back of the group, a tired Lambo started to shake. I said I'm tired, no good Tsuna. Lambo shouted, with tears welling up in his big green eyes, while digging through his afro. Sorry Lambo, but we need to find everyone and Tsuna began, and then screamed. When Lambo pulled a pink grenade from his afro, took out the pin, and threw the grenade at Tsuna, who was lucky enough to catch it. Juggling hand to hand, Tsuna started to panic at the sight of the explosive. Without thinking, he tossed it forward towards Ryohei, and into Ryohei's hands. Ryohei looks at the grenade with a blank expression before nodding and tossing it to Yamamoto. Sudden hot potato. What an extreme way to relieve boredom, Sawada. Ryohei exclaimed cheerfully. Yamamoto caught the grenade with a smile on his face, laughing a little. Good idea, Tsuna. Tsuna's mouth dropped. Was he the only one concerned that there a bomb right in front of them? The two jocks were laughing, having the time of their lives, when Yamamoto gestured the grenade as if he were to throw it to Tsuna. Tsuna looked pale as a ghost as he gaped in horror of his own pending doom. As panic shoot through Tsuna's body, making him rigid. On his semi-dying will, he shouted out, Yamamoto, no. Throw it away. The words, Yamamoto, throw, and, away, came together in the baseball idiot's mind as his expression went deadly serious as he turned away from the group to throw the grenade to the side, in the front yard of a large traditional home. Tsuna watched as the grenade crashed into the grassy lawn, and exploded. The light made everyone's head turn away, only to look back at a completely destroyed yard. The front yard to this house was huge, but the part the grenade's explosion hit, made it tore up and blacken. Tsuna started shaking in fear of the money damages he'd have to pay, fear of confronting the assumedly rich man and his family that probably lived in the beautiful house. Not to mention the guilt of destroying a person's yard with explosives of all things. If the people living in that house weren't super nice, they'd probably call the cops on Tsuna, Yamamoto, Ryohei and Lambo, and they'll all go to prison. Reborn will probably make the cops only punish Tsuna for being the boss, which he isn't. And Lambo, since Reborn never really liked Lambo in the first place. Tsuna stood frozen in terror at the consequences for the explosion, as Ryohei said, ooh, and, tilde, at the extreme explosion. Lambo stopped crying during the explosion. The lights and loud noises distracted Lambo from his boredom and made him smile. Yamamoto was the only one close to the same emotional level as Tsuna. Though it's rather, very, watered down. Ha ha, whoops, sorry about that Tsuna, I can't control myself when I'm in the baseball mode. Yamamoto said lightly, and rubbing the back of his head sheepishly. We'll all die, Tsuna thought to himself as he guessed the years of paying back he'll do to repair this lawn. Tsuna's thoughts could never have been more accurate as the coldest, darkest, angriest and also familiar voice rang out menacingly. What are you doing, herbivore? While still sitting on the fence in front of Tsuna's house, Reborn was about to smack Gokudera over the head for complaining that he didn't know where Tsuna was, and that his right-hand man should be there for his boss. When a large explosion turned everyone's attention to an area roughly a quarter of a mile from where they were. What was that? Chrome asked, wide eyes and clutching her trident close to her chest. Gokudera looked boredly at the sight of the explosion. He's seen bigger. Should we check it out? Dino queried casually. The question meant for Reborn. Yeah, it's probably Tsuna, Reborn said casually. Gokudera immediately stood up with wide eyes. What? Well, we have to make sure the 10th is all right. Predictable, Reborn said. It'd be fastest to go by car. Dino, Reborn said, turning his attention to the blonde man. Dino's surprised eyes turned serious as he strolled over to his car. And since he didn't bring his men with him at the sudden call for a new mission, he sat in the driver's seat. Reborn hopped from atop of the gate through the passenger seat window. And into his seat he can 'cause he's reborn. Gokudera bounded towards the car and not so gracefully, stumbled into the seat right behind Reborn. Chrome gave a nervous look as she hurried along to get herself in the seat behind Gokudera. Since Dino was driving without subordinates that day, it was not so safe to say that Dino may or may have not ran over some people and run into a few buildings. As they started getting closer to their destination, Tsuna shrieked as he saw a glowering Habari, with the most pissed-off expression he's worn since he's known him. Tsuna's body shook with fear, and his face paled at the sight of the shiny steel tonfas that Habari owned in his hands, even though Habari was in his black pajamas. Even Lambo backed down at the bloodthirsty aura the shady teen was pouring out. However, Ryohei and Yamamoto seemed completely unaffected by Habari's menacing glare. "Yo, Habari-san, you live around here?" Ryohei asked in his usual extremely loud voice. Habari's GL narrowed on Ryohei as Habari thrust his hand forwards and allowing his tonfa hit Ryohei square in the forehead. Ryohei stood standing for a moment, before falling unconscious on the street. Tsuna gaped at Habari's exceedingly short temper. "He usually says something to you, before knocking you down like that." Habari is very pissed. "I know he didn't do it. Which one of you did do it?" he said in a deadly calm voice. You could almost see the menace coming off of Habari in a dark and scary cloud form. Tsuna nearly fainted in fright by Habari's exceptionally vicious behavior. The brunette closed his eyes, wishing the terror away. While in the blind darkness, Tsuna heard shuffling and a gripping noise. Tsuna dared to open his eyes to find Habari grabbing a Yamamoto who was laughing casually in Habari's death grip. Lambo was stuck under Habari's foot, squirming for his life. "Hey, Habari-san, it was an accident." Yamamoto tried to laugh. "Are you admitting to the crime then, herbivore?" Habari slandered. "Crime? Oh, well, Yamamoto spoke nervously, smile never leaving its place. It was then when Tsuna caught sight of Agnella in pajamas, watching the whole scene with a surprisingly calm manner. Agnella, could you please call the police?" Tsuna pleaded out in a whisper, not wanting the fearsome school prefect to notice him, but still wanted to help poor Yamamoto and Lambo. "But you're all playing, right? Boys like to play rough," Agnella said honestly with a smile while remembering Firo and Meza, playing together with knives. "It's like she's used to this." Tsuna gaped out loud. Habari turned his attention from Yamamoto to Tsuna's sudden outburst. Habari caught the direction of Tsuna's eyes and looked at Agnella with a calm face and cold eyes. Agnella gave a small wave and a smile. Like the violence wasn't happening. Weird. Habari turned back to Tsuna who instantly shrunk under his glare. "What business do you have with Walker?" Habari asked sternly. Tsuna read to say. Reborn invited her and you to be in a mission, but it came out as a little stutters and incoherent words. And for the sake of Tsuna's already bad reputation, we'll say that he stuttered like a moron because he was tired. Not because he was scared shitless. Habari was about to just bite the answer out of Tsuna, until a large black car came into view, swerving like mad, bumping and knocking over fences and leaving streak marks on the road from the tires of the limo. Habari narrowed his steely eyes hatefully. Someone is going to have an unexpectedly early funeral. The car came to an abrupt stop as Ryohei's body came into view to Dino, his arms locked in front of him and his face frightened. Before anyone else could get out, Reborn hopped out of the passenger side window. Habari's face and body language went cold and murderous, too amused. "Infant," Habari named, stepping away from Tsuna to Reborn, much to Tsuna's relief. "Habari, I see you're just as violent as ever," Reborn said, noticing the front of Yamamoto's shirt still in the hold of Habari, Ryohei's unconscious body laid out in the middle of the street, Lambo under Habari's foot and a trembling Tsuna. Then Reborn noticed Agnella standing by and watching everything like it was normal. Weird. And then Reborn took notice of the damage done to Habari's house by explosive. "Tsuna, you idiot," Reborn smirked, tilting his fedora the right way for mystery. Habari smirked sadistically at Reborn, dropping Yamamoto to the floor while charging at the baby hitman with full force. Reborn being reborn, he dodged every one of Habari's strikes aimed at his head. Where else can Habari even reach? Habari, a great fight awaits you, Reborn said casually, after dodging Habari's swing to the side of his head. He jumped head up in the air and landed in a sitting position on Habari's fence post. Habari stopped charging and stood still while letting his cold gaze on Reborn. This fight Reborn was offering caught Habari's attention. Reborn, please just tell me, what is this mission even about? Tsuna practically sobbed, obviously not able to take the mental stress. Tsuna's tolerance to stress was never strong to begin with either. Reborn only smirked. Agnella, the project isn't ready just yet, is it? Reborn asked, not looking at anyone. Agnella blinked in surprise, but answered, yes, I'm really ahead of schedule. I can have it finished by tonight. Reborn seemed eerily pleased by this. Yeah, what is this mission even about? Gokudera, who during Habari's and Reborn brawl went to his boss's side followed by Dino and Chrome. It's a direct mission from the 9th, Reborn said casually, taking a flaming letter from his tiny jacket. Any other rational thoughts like, how did you get that letter to fit into your jacket? Or, why did you delay telling us all about this? Slipped from Tsuna's mind as he gaped at the familiar seal, knowing without a doubt that it's from the 9th Vongola. Tsuna, Gokudera, Yamamoto, Chrome, Lambo, Dino and even Ryohei, who just woke up, stood in odd silence. Actually, for Chrome, Yamamoto and Ryohei, they stared in confusion. Habari raised an eyebrow at the sudden announcement. Agnella looked worried about Reborn holding a letter that was on fire. Reborn took the silence as a chance to explain now. A man who runs a special school, who is long-term friends with the Vongola family has a student who is basically under attack. We're all going to act as bodyguards and protect this student, and to do so we're going to England to meet and attend the same school as him, while undercover. That's such a vague explanation, who would even agree to go? Tsuna thought, twitching in annoyance. Reborn can't ask people to go to nations away for a mission for such formless reasons. After all the group has been through, Tsuna only naturally assumed that his friends would know the dangers of these missions, and should be able to refuse this ridiculous. I will go to the 10th, as his right-hand man. Gokudera was the first to speak up. Of course, ha ha, I'll ask my pops, but I think I can make it, kid, Tsuna. Yamamoto laughed. I will participate, for the boss, Chrome replied meekly. I'll be there to help my little bro. Dino smiled confidently. I'll be there for Sawada, to the extreme. Ryohei cheered from the ground. I'll be sure to defeat you at your mission and kill you, Reborn. Lambo ranted, fist in the air. Reborn smirked at all of their enthusiasm that seemed to impress his no-good student. Tsuna could only stare in obliviousness, shocked too. Too proud and happy to have so many people dedicated to him. Even though the mission is probably perilous, Tsuna has to go now, to protect the people who are willing to protect him at a moment's notice. Tsuna will protect the people he cares about, with his dying will. Out from Tsuna's moment, something tugged at Tsuna's instincts and turned his head around to meet gazes with his Cloud Guardian and Agnella. Reborn seemed to be on the same page as Tsuna. Agnella, you're coming by my permission, but you already know that, Reborn stated. Agnella looked back at Reborn with eyes wide and full of curiosity, before nodding curtly. Habari stared down at Reborn, who was glaring at him, with hostility. No, the word was laced with menace, not trying to hide itself in Habari's voice as Habari thought about being away from Namimori for a long time. Oh no, Habari does not like that idea. Tsuna was on his feet now, thanks to Gokudera, as he watched Reborn stand off with Habari. You can bite a lot more people to death. New people and some powerful, Reborn tempted. Habari looked thoughtful at this, though his face went emotionless. There was a solid silence for a moment before he broke it. And a fight with you. Reborn smirked at this, knowing the Cloud Guardian would ask for a fight with him. Maybe, Reborn said. Habari didn't look one over. Reborn suddenly hopped on Habari's shoulder. Habari's face went impassive as Reborn put a word-shielding hand to the side of his mouth and started whispering in Habari's ear. A few silent words passed through their lips, Reborn talking and Heba giving short responses went on in front of Tsuna. Tsuna had a mini panic attack. Reborn could be offering a fight with him and Habari, or even Tsuna's soul. Habari, you will have a lot of kids too. Bite for this new mission. Reborn tempted again. Kids are the same everywhere. Habari scoffed. Yes, that's true, but at this new mission you'll have the element of surprise. Reborn smiled. Quote? Kids will underestimate you. Then you can put them at your place by being the perfect there. I doubt anyone will oppose you once you beat down a few kids, and since they're new to you, they'll be extra afraid, Reborn said evilly. Habari furrowed his eyebrows. That does seem like fun, but taking on this mission meant leaving Namimori. Habari can't really explain why he loves Namimori so much. It's just a humble little town that makes Habari happy and calm, and leaving that happiness was not on Habari's what to do list. Agnella makes you feel calm and happy. And she's going. In fact, if she even says the words, I don't want to go, her boss can kill her. Reborn read Habari's mind and stated plainly. Habari ignored the first part of Reborn's sentence as his eyes instantly darkened. No, am I? Letary position gives you that power, Habari reasoned. The baby smirked. Normally yes, but Agnella is in quite the compromise. I won't go into detail, but the words, Agnella is putting her life on the line to go to this mission, are very literally. Reborn whispered darkly. Habari thought about it. If the baby is telling the truth, then Agnella will have to go to this mission. She doesn't seem all that powerful, so she'll rely on others for protection. Habari thought about Agnella's safety in the hands of Tsuna and his friends, aka useless herbivore, on this mission that the baby said was dangerous. And Reborn is on the same page as Habari on danger levels. A protective urge overcame Habari as he felt himself lean towards actually going to the mission to make sure Agnella is okay. Habari scrunched up his face slightly. Why does he care about the stupid herbivore anyway? Is it because she doesn't bother him, or that her smile is nice? Habari almost flinched. Did he just think that the herbivore's smile was nice? More reasons to like Agnella came to Habari, and the more and more irritated Habari grew. But Habari couldn't ignore the fact that he really wanted to make sure Agnella is saw. But he can't let Reborn think that he's considering because of the herbivore. Maybe after the fight, I'll consider fighting you, Reborn offered, knowing that Habari will never let him think he's protective of Agnella and just gave Habari another reason to go. Habari paused as he mulled this offer over, a fight with the baby and the self-assurance of Agnella's safety. All right, Habari smirked sadistically at the thought of fighting the baby. Tsuna couldn't believe Habari agreed to leave Namimori. Just what did Reborn offer to make Habari change his mind? 100 souls. Tsuna stood agape at Habari and Reborn. Habari got a glimpse of the stupid brunette herbivore trying to stare at him, and then Habari remembered his house. I still need to bite this herbivore to death for the Dester. Auction of my property, Habari plainly stated as he let his menacing stare onto Tsuna, who almost fainted at the amount of cold anger in that stare. Tsuna's brown eyes meet Reborn's soulless black ones. Please, Tsuna pleaded through his eyes. Reborn. Eyes held nothing. Please don't let him bite me to death. Tsuna pleaded again. Silence. Finally, Reborn moved his mouth. Go ahead, but make sure he can walk by tomorrow. I'll have some people come over and fix your yard. Tsuna's hopes were shattered as a darker than usual Habari walked towards the shaking boy. Agnella, you're gonna have to come with me for a moment to discuss further adjustments of your participation for this mission, Reborn said, while gesturing to coming inside of the limo. Agnella seemed thoughtful. What else is there to discuss than the letter he sent me? Agnella wondered, but followed Reborn in the limo anyway, while Habari beat Tsuna, Gokudera, Yamamoto and Dino as Chrome ran away from the scary person, and Lambo ran for his dear life. Agnella sat in the limo, and for a second remembered the when she was discovered by the Russian military, when she began the slow limo ride from the tiny farmhouse to the military base. And her father sitting right next to her all those years ago. She remembers seeing Itsov's face for the first time, how she thought he was a great person, and how disgusted Agnella feels now knowing that's how she felt about him. Little girls are so naive and impressionable. Agnella was manipulated right into Itsov's web of lies the moment she met him. Agnella, Reborn called out, gaining Agnella's attention. Don't space out, Reborn scolded. Agnella let a weak smile pull itself at the corners of her mouth. Ah, sorry, Agnella, I don't mean to force you to lie to your friend, bu. I need you to do something for me, Reborn addressed. Agnella became curious and determined and then nodded quickly. I need you to make sure Veno doesn't know where you are, and keep him from visiting you. Agnella's face immediately dropped. She's been trying to do exactly that for years. Veno always seems to find Agnella, wherever she is, usually by Isaac and Miria inviting him to go with them when they visit Agnella. Agnella is too afraid to ask Isaac and Miria to stop inviting him to wherever Agnella is, just in case Veno decided to shank and torture Isaac and Miria for not letting him come along. For reasons Agnella cannot fathom, Veno seems set on calling Agnella his daughter and keeps asking Agnella to live with him and his wife, Shane. Agnella, with a shaking body, tells him that, I have to work, for an excuse to not live with him. She doesn't dare to tell Veno about her real dad just in case he's alive. She doesn't want Veno slaughtering him once he finds him. And besides, he seems to take the working excuse. But how long will that last until Veno gets tired of it? Not only that, but when Agnella finds her father, dead or alive, or when Agnella turns 18, she will leave the military. What excuse will she have then? Pushing those soon-to-come troubles aside, Agnella is alarmed. How does Reborn know about Veno? He is supposed to be a legend, a myth to the mafia world in Eastern America. Why does Reborn know he's real? He also seems to know that he's actually human, not a ghost or mythical creature. But no one is supposed to know that. Veno, being the monster he rail tracer, was supposed to hide his secret, so that way he was safe. Agnella never even uses his old names, calling him Felix, to avoid Jonathan Talbot and the CIA putting him in jail. The stories about Veno and the rail tracer start in the late 20s and 30s, that in combined knowledge of him being human, does Reborn know he's immortal? What do you know about Veno? Agnella breathes into the air, eyes wide and mouth slightly agape. Reborn gave a very excellent poker face. I know that he has a lot of names. I also know he's one nasty killer that has a small list of people he won't kill. And you're on that list, Reborn said casually, leaning back into the plush, high-quality chairs that made up the limos inside. Agnella immediately relaxed. Reborn doesn't know about the immortals. Yes, I know how scary he is. Making him do something he doesn't want to do will be hard to do, but I can get him to stay in America. Agnella knew she is too afraid to confront Veno herself. But she can always ask his wife Shane to do it for her. Not that she'll tell Reborn this, he knows too much already. More importantly, he can't know about immortality. Agnella knows he wants to get information about it out of her. That's why he wanted to talk in private in the limo. I should have seen this coming, Agnella scorned at herself. Agnella held back a grimace as she faked a calm look. That's good. I bet you're wondering why I wanted to talk to you inside this limo alone, am I right? There was an edge to Reborn's voice, something unspoken. Agnella tried to decode his tone. He wants something. Biting down on the inside of her cheek, Agnella forced a smile. Yeah, let's make this easy, Walker, Reborn began. Agnella gulped down dryness, and tucked away anxiety as she waited for the worst. I need you to make sure Habari doesn't damage Tsuna too much, Reborn said seriously. Agnella blinked. Well, at least he's not asking about immortality. But the question is weird. Didn't boys play rough all the time? It's not like they're murdering each other like Veno. The name made Agnella involuntarily shiver. Okay, Agnella agreed, hoping to get the terrifying man out of her head. Reborn smiled that trademark smile. Good. But during the pandemonium, everyone seemed to not notice a man in a simple but elegant dark suit, with blood-red hair that seemed to look around for something quite casually. As if he were completely comfortable in being in a foreign country. In a sense, it seems that this man owns the world. He's young-looking, handsome, has a lot of money, so of course he has confidence. He is even a formidable fighter. This man should be looking after younger people, and be helping them, but their safety in general didn't seem to spike any interest. It's almost like he doesn't care if they died. Truth be told, Veno really doesn't care if their faces were ripped off or not. The Gandor family's greatest assassin came to Japan for a second time for one reason, to Get the kindly French speaker girl to live with him and his lovely wife Shane. Veno loved Shane more than anything, and wants her to himself, as does she. But Veno realized that Shane is getting homesick, after revealing to him she was born and raised in France. During first courting, Veno was sort of distracted by Shane's beauty and mystery, so Veno never bothered to find out was race and nation. Ality the mystifying silent knife wielder was, he loved her, he would marry her, and after a few years after he meet her, he did, and besides, he couldn't tell her nationality by her accent because she is a mute. But things in their not-so-modest settlement in Manhattan after a few decades were starting to get complicated. Shane wanted to be in France and write. She cannot speak, she writes down what she wants to say on paper to other French people, despite her love for her New Yorker husband. She loved him. The language he spoke was mediocre in cultural importance at best. Veno knew Shane missed hearing the beauty of her native language, but Agnella just happens to be fluent in it. Thus is why he wants to adopt her so Shane can feel better and Veno doesn't have to get away from crazy and exciting New York. Or away from his family. It's not like Shane wants to be with her family. Besides, Veno hardly found Agnella annoying like most children. She's not loud, she never complains, and she seems polite. Yeah, Veno. That's because Agnella is too afraid of you because she sees horrible bloody images whenever she sees your face because of all the trauma you put her through. Yeah, I am gonna die a horrible death for writing that. Excuse me as I run away in fear. The only odd thing about Agnella, Veno thought, is that she seems to distance herself from him. What's up with that? The important thing is that Shane seems to really like Agnella, which is most important to Veno. So, Agnella is the winner. Now for those pesky details. She works, so that means she has no parents to take care of her, right? Veno reasoned with himself. He remembers meeting her, dazed and confused with Isaac and Miria, who were showing off their foreign friend off to their friends in the Gandor bar. She had a thick accent at the time, but grew out of it in a few years of going to world meetings with the military leader of Russia, Lev Itzovin, while in the US, and went to New York to visit Firo, his brother Luc Gandor, and the rest of the Gandor and Martillo Mafia families, and Shane. Veno would have sworn he remembered seeing her on the night of the Flying Pussyfoot during 1930, but that's a bit far-fetched. After all, Agnella is a mortal girl, born in the 90s. Veno knows he and Shane are immortal, but death won't matter anyway. Veno decided to let Agnella be immortal. She won't die in his world. Veno, from a young age, decided the reasons he sees and is able to interact in this world that he sees, is because he is the world. Veno knows it's because the world is his entertainment, chaos and all. Everything he sees is everyone else's lives. He can decide who will die or not, whether this building or that building will be set on fire with people inside. If Veno really felt like it, he would destroy the world. But Veno would preferably not. Not with his love, Shane, in his world. Veno knew only a little about human beings, but there was one thing he was sure of, and that is Shane is his, and he is Shane's. He loves her dangerously smooth yellow eyes, her neck-length dark flowing hair that looked like ebony silk rather than hair, her flawlessly smooth face, her superior knife-wielding skills. The guessing game that Shane creates when Veno tries to think, what is she thinking? While still knowing by looking in her eye, that she loves him back just as much. In short, there's nothing Veno doesn't love about Shane, and can't imagine the word imperfection when he thinks of her. And so, Veno, as a man, can't accept seeing Shane get anything less than the entire world. If she asked for anything, or desired anything, Veno will give it to her. Shane is not a needy woman, and this is one of the first things she asked for. So if she wants a French-speaking person, who's can probably teach Veno French too, so he can be alone with Shane again, he'll get her one. Hey, Agnella, where are you? Veno, the serial killer madman in love, called out to his soon-to-be French teacher, with the most casual grin. I got some news for ya. Agnella stepped out of the randomly placed limo, feeling like she dodged a bullet shot by no other than Reborn. Agnella isn't sure what she'd then try to say if Reborn asked about immortality. It's a great relief that he didn't ask. And yet, Agnella feels a chill, an instinctual one that makes you paranoid, and the hairs on your neck stand up in vague panic. Am I having an emotional breakdown? 2 years after all the terrible things happened to me. Agnella wondered if she went crazy lately, because this paranoia is starting to make Agnella's heart race exceedingly. Just then, Agnella felt another chill run down her spine on the warm summer day. With a bewildered expression, Agnella is sure. Yeah, I'm just crazy. Agnella, you're not crazy. In fact, you're right on track. Reborn casually read Agnella's mind. Agnella blinked absently, as fear started to pour into her mind. It isn't like Agnella is used to calm happiness like the type Isaac and Miria produced. She was used to much less sunshine and rainbow-ish things. Agnella guessed that's why she likes Isaac and Miria so much, and Agnella could only imagine what horror Reborn could be talking about. So, Veno is here, Agnella asked as a statement, turning her head side to side, checking for danger. From the corner of her eye, Reborn only smirked, making Agnella feel 10 times worse. It was easy to say Habari didn't go easy at all, not that he ever did. Random bruised bodies were sprawled out. Tsuna's wounds were not as bad as everyone else's. Habari is a man of his word, threats included. Habari was admittedly relieved to know that the baby's subordinates were going to fix his lawn. Anyone else doesn't have the skill to restore it back exactly how it was before the herbivores blew it up. Habari's calm smirk turned into a frown full of distaste. Herbivores blew up his yard. Honestly, Habari never saw that happening. The Cloud Guardian's mind started to calculate what was missing and found that. Fortunately, only grass and soil was destroyed in the blast. Habari is going to have to make sure to really bite them extra hard the next time, remembering the promise he has with the baby. Even with his dilemma fixed, Habari feels like he's missing something, but what? Habari then recalled Agnella. Turning his head in all directions, he didn't see her. The head perfect narrowed his eyes, and his mouth was pulled into a straight line. It looks like Agnella was taken out of place by force, since he did tell her to stay put. And soldiers don't go against orders. Unless the soldier is being commanded by a more powerful person. Is it ostentatiously incorrect to say that maybe the infant has taken Agnella? Habari didn't think so. Habari let a sadistic smirk play at his features, as he started to search for the one person he really wants to fight. Hey! A voice yelled out. Habari heard the voice, though not understanding the word, and turned to a rather smooth-looking adult man who looked American. It wasn't the red hair or the brown eyes that gave him away, it was the smug look on his face, and the way he waltzed around like he owned the place that Habari knew he wasn't good news. As soon as the man strolled his way easily, as if he didn't notice the debris or damage, and seemed to think Habari was no more of a threat than a fly. This annoyed Habari. Hey, kiddo, you wouldn't happen to know any English, do you? The man asked in his New York accented voice, in English. Habari didn't understand a thing he said in that sentence, and did the universal no, and shook his head. Ah geez, how am I going to even find Agnella? The man pondered with a lightly frustrated voice, not that Habari could even tell. But what Habari could ck out from the smug man's sentences, Agnella, even though it was accented in a different language. What business did he have with the herbivore? Habari wished the man spoke Japanese. Habari decided, instead of just attacking the overconfident man, and gave him a level stare, in the eyes of other people, a glare. The man didn't seem to know or care as he smiled a rather charming smile, that Habari narrowed his eyes at him. A typical American man. Maybe I should have brought someone to translate for me, but you're not talking much, are you? Veno spoke to Habari as if he could actually understand what Veno is saying. Habari said nothing as he didn't recognize a word out of the America's mouth. TCH, herbivore, the school perfect spat at the grinning man. He might just bite him to death for being American. Ah, you speak. Well, it's not like I don't mind you not speaking. After all, my beautiful wife is mute. Veno smiled at the thought of Shane despite the glares of Habari. The school perfect momentarily thought the red-headed man was crazy, by the way he was smiling off into space. Well, this was only supposed to take just a few minutes, but I can't find my new daughter. Ha ha, I guess that means I have to go home and meet up with Agnella later, Veno decided with a confident smile. She's not going anywhere, and Japan is a small country, the madman situated his plan. Turning back to the dark-haired Japanese boy, Veno smiled again. Thanks anyway, kid. With that, the murderer walked away to catch his flight back to Manhattan. Habari made a TCH sound in disapproval at TH. Smiley American man's attitude and felt a lot better as he left. He really would have bit him to death, if he didn't seem to know the military herbivore. Habari wasn't really sure why that fact mattered to him in his decision to fight the man, but he knew it made him feel better that he didn't. Tsuna groaned loudly in pain, unable to move on the hard concrete that he lay on. Countless cuts and bruises littered his visible and his unseen skin. Of course, he actually expected to be dead for blowing up Habari's front yard, but the brunette isn't complaining much. The small boy rolled to his seat to meet gazes with the baseball enthusiast who was smiling and laughing, despite the situation. Ha ha, I thought Habari-san would hurt us more. What a way to stay optimistic, Tsuna thought sarcastically. He loved his friend Yamamoto. He really does, but sometimes the sunshine-ness is a bit much. Judiame. A voice called out, and Tsuna turned his head to look 10 feet in front of him to say. His storm guardian getting up despite his wounds, and rushing to his side. 10th. Are you all right? Tsuna nodded weakly as Gokudera helped him up to his feet. A shaky-looking Agnella came out of a limo, and a poker-faced and placid Reborn followed. From the corner of Tsuna's eye, the brunette saw Habari walking back in front of his house from wherever he was. Reborn held a copy of the 9th letter. Habari. I'll leave you alone for now, but read this letter and be prepared by the date inside it, Reborn warned as he tossed the envelope over to Habari in a very mafioso way. Habari caught it, of course, and smirked at Reborn. Come back whenever you want, Habari glared at Tsuna and co. Alone, he added with a deadly voice. Tsuna blanched. Habari hates us even more. Wait, is that even possible? Come, soldier herbivore, Habari said as he turned on his heel and was heading down a street to start his patrol. Coming, Habari-kun, Agnella called out as she followed after Habari. Tsuna blanched again. Since when was Agnella Habari's helper? The poor, beaten brunette sighed. Life just gets harder, don't it? Reborn grunted slightly as he hopped in the air and landed in Tsuna's spiky hair. Come on Dame Tsuna, we need to finish your training. Tsuna's eyes bulged out of their sockets. Reborn, I have bruises all over my body already. Reborn smirked evilly as a gleam shimmered in his eyes. The sadistic baby held up his Leon hammer. A boss shouldn't be beaten by his subordinate, no good Tsuna. Thank you Reborn-san. Now I can defeat that stupid bastard for the 10th as soon as you finish with my training. Ha ha, Gokudera is so energetic. So, when do we get started, kid? Tsuna's friends seemed much more motivated than him. Tsuna sighed out loud. How is it that Agnella has it easier than me? She's been with Habari for over 24 hours. Smash. Shut up, you wimp. Ow. Back at the Sawada residence. Boom. Crash. Etc. Were the sounds coming from the back yard that could be heard in the kitchen of the modest house, where Nana was currently cleaning dishes. Ah. Studying is such noisy work, isn't it Tilda? Nana hummed happily as something that sounded suspiciously like a machine gun went off. Followed by her son's voice screaming in terror, bless their youth. I'm not gonna lie, this is total filler, just don't tell Reborn, he knows where I live. Eek. D smiley face. Still at the Sawada residence. An hour later Tilda, in the living room, and on the couch, Tsuna's moans of pain could be heard from the pillow he was trying to hide his shame. Tsuna's two best friends stood next to the brunette without a scratch. On the floor, Lambo and Ipin were chasing each other around the couch. Fuda and Bianchi left to go shopping for some ingredients for dinner that Nana forgot to buy. I never really thought you would be this pathetic. No good Tsuna. Reborn paused to take a sip of tea Nana made, but at this particular moment, both Yamamoto and Gokudera would make a better mafia boss than you. Reborn insulted with no qualms for Tsuna's injuries as he bounced on the boy's bruised back. Tsuna replied in a squeak of pain. Wah, no, never, I would never be a better boss than the 10th. It's impossible, Gokudera exclaimed, waving his arms around for enthusiasm, as a blithe Yamamoto laughed along, ha ha. The kid sure takes this game seriously, doesn't he? Goku. Dara whipped his head around to see that Yamamoto. For the last time, baseball idiot, this is not A game. Yamamoto was silent for a moment, processing the information Gokudera. The fact at Yamamoto seems like he was actually thinking caused Tsuna and Gokudera to made sounds of amazement and leaned in towards the baseball star to witness to unimaginable. Yamamoto found out that the mafia is not a game. You really take this mafia game seriously, huh Gokudera? Ha ha, even more seriously than the kid. Yamamoto laughed free-heartedly, while Tsuna and Gokudera had the same thing on their mind. He really doesn't get it. Well, actually, this is more or less of Gokudera's thoughts. What a baseball idiot. I believe it's time we go over the ninth's orders, Reborn mused. He somehow got a giant flaming letter out of his tiny pocket. Tsuna didn't even question the physics behind the stunt as he gaped at the familiar flame for a seal on the envelope. What does it say? Tsuna asked timidly. Reborn then promptly smacked Tsuna over with his Leon hammer. Ow, Reborn. Wah, we have to wait for your guardians, and also Dino and Agnella to come to read this over, and discuss traveling and magical train ticket prices in Europe, Reborn said nonchalantly. What? Magical train? Gokudera and Tsuna yelled at the baby hitman at the same time, while Yamamoto just grinned, not really sure what was going on. Silence elapsed over the group, and then suddenly a snot bubble protruded out of Reborn. I can't believe it. He's asleep now, especially with Habari and Mukuro coming to my house, Tsuna mused. A pause entered Tsuna's brain as he further processed that last piece of information. Oh God, Habari and Murkuro. Mom, hide in the attic. Now, Tsuna yelled towards the kitchen where he could still hear his mother's humming. Huh, what was that, Su-kun? His mother asked innocently from the kitchen, holding up a pot roast that she was about to put in the oven. Tease. Una couldn't answer as his soul leaked from the corner of his mouth that paled like the rest of his face. Tsuna could only imagine the horror, Mukuro and Habari destroying his house and hospitalizing his mother by accidentally being in the way. Oh God. Gokudera looked like he was thinking the same thing. I won't let those bastards inside the tent's house. They knock on the tent's door, I'll blow them up. He hollered with a threatening gleam in his eye. Just then, Ryohei slammed Tsuna's door open, and promptly shouting out, I'm extremely here, Master Pow Pow. Earning a wince from Tsuna a good-natured laugh from Yamamoto and a glare from Gokudera. One could almost see Gokudera's blood pressure rise as he lit a dynamite stick. You have a lot of nerve, you noisy bastard. Gokudera growled. A vein twitched on Ryohei's forehead. What was that, octopus head? What? You made yourself deaf already? I was talking to you, turf top. Gokudera yelled back. The vein on the bomber's head grew. Tsuna's sweat dropped as Yamamoto seemed to be having trouble processing the sudden fight, before walking over to try to break up the fight between the Sun and Storm Guardian to no avail. If my two more normal Guardians fight like this at my house with my mother here, what exactly will Mukuro and Habari do? Tsuna thought with despair, hanging his head in defeat. Oh, they're almost here, Reborn said in a deadpan voice. Suddenly awake. Hey, who's almost here? Tsuna's eyes widened impossibly wide as shouted from his sitting position on his couch. Reborn, who is standing right next to the brunette suddenly fell asleep again. Tsuna began to pull at his hair in despair. Hey, that rhymes. As he panicked uncontrollably. In case you don't know what it means to panic uncontrollably, here are the symptoms. 1. Heavy and shaky breathes. 2. Gaping mouth that normally reaches mid-chest. 3. And temporary loss of pupils. In more serious cases of uncontrollable panic, symptoms may include severe paling in skin, hair and clothes, mouth going into odd shapes such as triangles, squares and the occasional rainbow arch, tensed fingers, the making of repetitive sounds with no meaning, or a dawdling of one word. And in the worst-case scenarios, fainting on the face. Tsuna is having all of the symptoms, all at once. Just then, a meek purple-haired girl with 2 boys following her, entered through the front door, which was left open. Tsuna abandoned his panic attack and hesitantly waved at the shy girl. Hello Chrome-chan. Good day, boss, the girl replied with a slightly bow. No matter how much Chrome looks like Mukuro, Tsuna can't believe that she has such good manners while being in his constant presence of Mukuro, Ken and Chikusa. Now, we just need Habari, Dino and Agnella. Reborn was suddenly awake again as he stated calmly, pleasantly sipping tea while ignoring the increasing loud and violent fight between Ryohei and Gokudera. That's so easy for you to say. You're not the one bringing all these dangerous people to your house. Tsuna snapped back at Reborn in his head. If he actually said that, he'd be dead. Just as Krone was starting to get ally scared by Gokudera and Ryohei's collective shouting, the door that Chikusa politely closed was slammed open, leaving a dent in the wall. From the kitchen, an inquisitive voice could be heard. Su-kun, what was that? Nothing, Mom, Tsuna stuttered, anxiety making his blood pressure almost unbearable. Yamamoto, Gokudera and Ryohei stopped fighting. Well, Yamamoto was trying to pull them apart. And the rest of the occupants to the room all paused to witness Dino being roughly thrown into the room. The bucking bronco landed on his back in the middle of Tsuna's living room with an oomph. Habari briskly entered, and Agnella followed. What do you want, herbivore? You're interrupting my patrol, so this better be good. Habari threatened with his arms over his chest. Behind him, Agnella waved kindly, with a smile, towards the group, without a care in the world. How does she not see the danger emitting from the hazard known as Habari? Tsuna's logic was screamed, to no avail, in his mind. Reborn only smirked. Okay, since everyone's here, I'll tell you the mission straight from the Ninth's handwritten letter. Everyone in the room, save for Habari, nodded. Reborn opened the envelope and began to translate. Dear 10th Vongola boss, my loyal, longtime friend Dumbledore runs a very special school, a magic school. However, the school is in trouble, with more enemies than one. He fears that one student in particular will die in the hands of utter evil. If it's not too much to ask, I would like you and your guardians to come to his school in England to protect Harry Potter. I hope to hear a favorable reply. Sincerely, the 9th Vongola. Extreme England School. When do we leave, Master? Pow pow. Ryohei shouted with a quick jab of his fist as he knocked out an invisible target. Magic School? Tsuna questioned in disbelief. TCH, the 10th's right. Magic isn't real, and besides, why should we care about this, Potter, kid at all? I don't care about the British. Gokudera fumed. Ma, don't be so mean. The guy seems to be in trouble, we should help. Yamamoto tried to coax the angry bomber. Well, doesn't that just make Gokudera sound like your average terrorist, don't it? I don't remember anything about protecting anyone, infant. Are you going against your word? Habari narrowed his eyes at Reborn. England. I thought you said to keep Felix from just Japan. Reborn-san. Felix isn't gonna be there, right? Agnella fidgeted as Habari looked in her direction and raised an eyebrow at her reaction. Ha ha ha, you foolish people need the great Lambo to help you. I might consider it, for a certain charge. Lambo boasted without anything to actually boast about. England, Krone said with hesitance. Reborn then promptly kicked Tsuna in the face. And Tsuna dropped to the floor like a flour sack. Unfortunately, he landed on his face bruises. Reborn, why did you kick me? I literally didn't do anything. Tsuna shouted at his Spartan home tutor to no avail. Yamamoto and Ryohei are the only ones here with the right attitude. Reborn announced. Yamamoto grinned cheekily and Ryohei gave a loud, extreme. Gokudera burned holes in the back of the baseball idiot and turf top's head. Gokudera, this is the 9th's orders, so your disregard to British people doesn't matter. Gokudera almost fell to the floor at the criticism. Tsuna, there is such thing as magic. With the things you've seen so far, you shouldn't have problem believing trivial things like magic. Tougher training can solve that. I can only fault your dumb BNESS to the situation as a personal problem. Before Tsuna could open his mouth to plead for mercy, Reborn cut him off again. Habari, you won't be necessarily protecting anyone. That will be no good. Tsuna's job. You'll come to the fight when you feel like it, and trust me, there's gonna be a good fight. Habari made a humph sound in satisfaction. A dark gleam danced in his eyes. A good fight, huh? Infant, you better not be bluffing, Habari smirked. Agnella, Reborn acknowledged, and in reply Agnella lifted her head from in between her knees to look Reborn in the eyes. She blinked unknowingly at him. Get over your stupid, trivial fear of Veno. We both know he won't murder you. I better not hear any more complaints about him. By the way, I invited him along to bring you to the End station since he is basically your only guardian, aside from General Itsov who can't come for obvious reasons. Agnella paled. Reborn-san, what have you done? I would have preferred nuclear war between America and Russia by having General Itsov come instead of Veno. No. Agnella automatically sank to the floor in despair. An emo cloud of emo-ness covered her dark head. Oh, and you stupid cow. Reborn turned his attention to Lambo who looked up to him in confusion, sucking on a grape hard candy. You already agreed to this, so shut up or I'll shoot you. Reborn sent Lambo a gleam so threatening, Lambo cried. And choked on his candy, on the spot. Gah ha ha. Reborn, you meanie. The cow child was ignored. Chrome, I don't believe Mukuro would like to come, and since you can train with here, you don't have to come. Chrome muttered an, okay. Everyone in the room now looked depressed, happy, or shocked, but everyone was silent. Any more questions? Reborn asked in an oddly childish, yet commanding voice. Yeah, how are we supposed to do magic? I mean, Tsuna began, only to have Reborn throw a large dictionary at Tsuna's face. Ow, where did you even get that? Tsuna asked. Really? Zing that the dictionary didn't even belong to him. Sorry Tsuna. Reborn told me to bring my biggest, heaviest dictionary. It's all in the name of fun, right? Agnella smiled kindly. Just what is your idea of fun? Tsuna wondered out loud, recalling all the inappropriate times and situations Agnella put off bullying or beatings as boys having fun. No one asked you, no good Tsuna. Reborn suddenly answered Tsuna as he took another sip of his tea. You just asked if anyone had any questions. Tsuna argued, to a sleeping baby. How does he keep going to sleep so easily like that? Tsuna yelled at Reborn's sleeping form. Tsuna blinked at the sound of a safety switch on a gun being switched off. Everyone that's going on the mission needs to be ready by tomorrow. Failure to do so will result in death. Now, everyone get out so I can sleep. Reborn all, but threatened. No one was stupid enough to question the baby's authority. Everyone was bussed at home, preparing for the trip in their own way. Ryohei told Kyoko that Master Pao Pao is sending him and everyone else to a sumo wrestling match in China. Kyoko full-heartedly believed her older brother. And Kyoko's and Ryohei's mother believed her son's excuse, face palm. Reborn told Lambo that he was going to stay in Namimori just in case of any emergency which he can use the 10-year bazooka, and Ipin to help out, which they enthusiastically agreed to. Futa agreed to help babysit them and help Nana around the house. Reborn also asked Bianchi to stay who also agreed with extreme reluctance. But Tsuna's neighbors couldn't but notice the exercise amount of purple smoke coming from the open windows, doors and chimney of the household. And it also didn't escape the neighbors' ears that they swore they heard hi-pi. TCH screaming that suspiciously sounded like, help me, poison, and, gonna die. But, being the relaxed, yet caring neighbors they are, they did nothing, note the sarcasm. Habari told Kusakabe to look after Namimori. When his ever-faithful second-in-command asked him why, Habari answered bluntly that he was leaving Namimori tomorrow, and that statement came out of Habari's mouth. It took the second-in-command a few minutes to get over the shock, but afterwards he was happy to oblige and inform the others of the news. Yet, Kusakabe feared for the lives of any person who might annoy Habari. While he's outside of his favorite little town. God help those unfortunate souls. Chrome went back to the base at Kokuyo Land, and told Ken, Chikusa about Reborn's offer. They heard Tsuna's name, and immediately said, no, in sync. If you must know, before she could finish talking. She then later tried with Mukuro who also disagreed, and decided to train the meek, purple-headed or should I say pineapple-headed himself. But, the mission seems interesting enough to check in on. Gokudera still was skeptical about magic, but if they are ghosts and undiscovered animals in this world, he might as well accept it. Besides, this is for the tent's safety. Everyone knows that the baseball idiot can't do his job. Sure kid. Gokudera then made the biggest and fastest black market purchase in history. 2,200 kilos of sticks of dynamite by midnight. Gokudera doubts he's quite been so proud since becoming the tent's right-hand man. Yamamoto didn't like lying to his father, and he sure could tell when he was. But he got the okay from his old man anyway. Yamamoto had a hard time picking and choosing specific baseball equipment, and the boy has quite the collection to bring along on his trip so he wouldn't get bored. He figured that Tsuna'll play ball with him, or at least Ryohei will try. He won't push his optimism far with trying to get Gokudera to play, but that's alright. Yamamoto slept with a smile on his face, dreaming about the adventures to come, and a stomach full of his dad's famous sushi. Dino had his men help with packing, with reluctance, but was sort of proud of their determination. The blonde man had a hard time deciding whether it was a hazard to bring Enzo in a wet country like England, but ended throwing him in his pocket anyway, much to his subordinates' protests. His subordinates might not be able to protect themselves in case anything goes wrong. "Better me than my men," was the honorable man's motto. Dino then thought about his own safety, and his brother's family's safety too. His hand slid against the cool handle as he packed a gun in his bag with a affirmative zip, feeling hopelessly anxious about the mission to come. Agnella repacked all of her bags that she unpacked in an empty house, seeing that Habari went off to a meeting with those city protectors, or whoever those men were with the weird haircuts. The young architect felt anxious about Reborn being aware of Veno's not-so-secretive secret. What if Huey, or Mr. Talbot find out Reborn knows? Agnella knows that Reborn cannot win against a victim who will never die. Even a hitman of Reborn's caliber cannot kill what cannot die. And the entire Talbot family founded the CIA and the FBI in America. Something with that much authority will not fall by the hands of a single person. No matter how powerful. Reborn, you have no idea what you're trying to get into, Agnella thinks before slipping off into sleep. As for Tsuna, Reborn made a fun game of, pack your shit before I shoot ya. Tsuna was reluctant at first, but really got moving after a few minutes of the game. He lost of course, but he was done packing, the mafia way. Tsuna couldn't keep his mind off magic that night, and feared for the safety of his guardians, Dino and his newest family member, Agnella. Believe it or not, I wrote this in like one day, 1 year ago. This is supposed to be like Harry Potter. So it's long and in detail. It will go slowly like this until the end, if I continue it. I'm not sure if this is liked or not, so tell me and I'll go and continue it. Tilda laughing face.